Strong together, united forever, they're the best of friends. Cause when comics come out, you'd best watch out for the LEOG. Cyrus is their leader, and he loves to geek out. Bo references obscure comic books.
Yeah, when he's not clowning around.
Werewolf! Beat up Quesada, say no to Loeb. Be at your comp on Friday. Cause if comics are out, you'd best watch out for the LEOG. Jason's a sensation, you should really never miss. Padawan's his biggest fan.
If I could only get that kiss.
Grant and Greg and the bassist, a couple of LEOG superstars. Leon knows the industry and he'll show you how to draw. Strong together, united forever, come and meet your friends. Have no fear, time's up, time's here for the LEOG. Long live the League!
God.
All right,
Jesus Christ.
Whatever negative feelings you might have had about that.
God.
Whatever negative feelings you might have had about that, you must admit that it involved much better acting than you will find in Watchmen.
Before we dive into that, I'm going to give it up to Grant here, who not only led, but wrote that piece.
Went out of his way.
Kudos to Grant for flushing his shame and pride down the toilet.
And for being the one member of the League
taking
who
us all
actually works
with
on
him.
the show outside of Friday.
Don't worry, Grant. From what I hear in nowadays climate of ironic detachment, anything that is ironic is kind of hot in a weird sort of way. When you see girls wearing Rubik Cube shirts, you can for sure get laid with this sort of geekiness. Woohoo! Anyway, welcome to the League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, Volume 2, Issue number 5, the Alan Moore episode.
Man, we got so many numbers behind. Okay, Volume 2, Issue 5.
Issue 5, yes. Yeah. It'll never get more complicated than two numbers.
It's like we're a Microsoft product.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this is
welcome to LEOG Vista.
Next, LEOG
no,
7.
we're LEOG Panther.
Welcome to LEOG Longhorn. We don't exist.
So, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I think that there was a movie or something that people seem to be a little freaked out about.
Oh, yeah. It's Race to Witch Mountain.
That's
Race to Witch
Mountain. So we'll be
Mountain.
talking about Alan Moore's Race to Witch Mountain.
Alan Moore's Race to Witch Mountain. Is that the one where there's the incestuous relationship between the psychic kids?
Yeah.
That hadn't occurred to me. Thanks for ruining my childhood completely. No, we'll be talking, of course, by The Watchmen because I get about 80 emails a day asking us to.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
You gotta
You're
love
right.
the fact that like none of us said it sucked, and yet people have dogpiled telling us what piece of shits we are for not loving that movie.
Well, let me just say, on our Spill review of the basic Spill gang that was on there, I gave it a high matinee, and I get an email every day going, "Fuck you, you asshole, for reading that." I said, "What? What did I do?"
Wait a minute. You guys do movie reviews too?
It's this whole other thing.
Yes,
Don't
this
worry.
other thing. We slum and do movie reviews.
Yeah.
Well, look.
But mostly we love comics.
Yeah.
Before we get any further into this,
I think introductions are due.
I think introductions are due, and then
Yes.
and then our disclaimer, which will be followed.
Our disclaimer. Okay.
Oh, the disclaimer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Cyrus, the
leader.
host of the show.
Clearly.
Well,
according to Grant.
I try. And Leon is my co-host without robotic parts.
True. Because who needs robotic parts?
Yeah,
I'll save those when I get old.
Yeah. All his parts work just fine the way they are.
Except his liver.
That's what I hear. There's Bo.
Hello.
The Mr. Hyde of the show.
I'm wacky.
We've got Jason,
Howdy.
who apparently has nothing else to contribute but that.
That's it. Thanks for coming. Yeah, later.
There's Jason F.
Well, this is probably all I'm going to end up saying throughout the entire thing.
Damn straight. Sit back.
Also known as Fish or
Hey, you got your
Padawan.
line in the song. Shut up.
Yeah. And of course, Grant.
Hello. Sorry about that song.
And our
Apologize for that song.
Our musical
That song was
leader
great.
and the coolest guy in the room, Greg, who will play his hello there. Hello, Greg.
On guitar tonight
Hello,
again.
fantasy football, Greg.
Fantasy football. Is that where you're blowing Steve Young?
Where where you roll for characters. What side of die do you use in fantasy football?
Yeah.
Give me because I don't have a mic on now.
You get a +5 to tight endedness.
Give me the ball. I've got an 18 charisma.
So when A-Rod is shooting steroids, is that like a saving throw?
Okay, first of all, that's baseball. Second of all, Steve Young is retired like 5 years ago.
Oh, God. Faux pas. God.
What the hell, man?
Call a tight end Jason Witten.
I don't know who any of these people are. Is
I
this
had
the
Jason Witten on my
Silmarillion?
fantasy
What
last
is
year.
this?
Me too.
Oh,
Alan Moore is so great, isn't he?
What position did
That's like
Alan
me-
Moore play?
Yeah, you see that's like me talking about that. You guys talking about sports. So Alan Moore is great, and so was what's the other guy's name?
and this is why you don't get a mic.
Exactly.
Yeah, just strum that axe there, son.
Well, we have two special guests here tonight to talk with us. We've got, first off, on the negative side of the Watchmen film. Look at him like shrugging, please.
That's right. Yeah, no. You got to sell this, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just guests. We got a old fashioned Texas chain link fence match.
With two of our oldest friends, people
Yes.
we've known for years in the days before cartoons, when
Okay.
there was merely a public access station.
Leon.
We've got Rick Claw here in one corner, frothing at the mouth,
I was wondering.
furious.
I was like, I don't know who this guy is at all.
You don't know the famous Rick Claw?
I don't.
The man who was the editor-in-chief of Mojo Press, who's worked with such greats as Michael Moorcock and Joe Lansdale. He's personal friends. He just came back from dinner with Michael Moorcock.
Dude, Michael Moorcock. That's
And okay, for anybody else who's going like, Michael who?
yeah. Read a book for God's sake.
Okay, okay, you
Without
guys are
pictures.
into porno, right? You know who Betty Page is, right? Who took all those photographs? Rick's
Michael
granddad? No. Urban Claw?
I was going to say, Michael Moorcock took pictures of Betty.
Your granddad was
Okay.
Irving Claw?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Moorcock wrote Elric.
Yes.
And if you don't know who that is, then
You lose.
What are you doing listening to us? Yeah, Wikipedia.
Yeah, okay. If you saw Hellboy 2, the little whitey white guy that was
Oh,
sort of like
yeah.
Tom Cruise, he was pretty much a ripoff of Elric.
Of Elric, yeah. And if you haven't learned by now, or if you're new and you're listening to the LEOG sitting there at your computer, open up a Wikipedia and just be ready. I mean, that's just a good rule of thumb, especially when Bo or Leon are speaking.
Yeah, generally
I'd
speaking.
also like to put in that it could also be Aaron Kazay or Corum or Hawkmoon or any of the manifestations of the Eternal Champion.
That's true. He is one of those
Why
guys.
didn't you
who-
invite me to dinner, Rick?
Sorry, I did invite him to come here.
Because Michael Moorcock likes
Oh, you invite
Michael
him to come
Moorcock
here?
likes nothing better than to have somebody show up at dinner going, "I love your stuff, man."
I love it. He's like, well, Mike, I'm going to do a podcast with my guys who talk about comics. You want to come? Sure. Right after I blow my brains out, I'll be right there.
Actually, he was, when we were there, he was talking about him and Alan Moore doing an event probably in June in England. Wow. They did one last year where they have this question and answer session.
Yeah.
Where people sit from the audience and ask them questions, and they answer them.
And
And
then
it's
they're-
like a geek love fest.
And then they're both going to play some Hawkmoon covers.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
well, actually, Hawkwind.
I'm sure Michael Moorcock really wants to be sitting around at a podcast listening to me get drunk and say, your name's Moorcock. Because I'd hope I would avoid that, but
But you wouldn't.
But
I
there's
would.
no
Yes.
way.
I'm
We know
I'm
you're
already
better than that.
like 4 beers in.
We'd
so.
segue from that into the Philip K. Dick jokes, and then we're taking you out into the back, beating the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time or the last, probably. And our other special guest, who we went off on a Michael Moorcock rant.
Yes, Colin Smiley.
Smiley.
Hello. He will. Well, tell us what you do for a living, Colin. Tell us a little bit in terms that I can understand, because normally when you
Talk
start talking about
slowly.
what you do,
Yes.
my head phases out like when Mary hears us start recording a LEOG.
Please.
The eyes glaze over. I don't
Legitimize yourself to
Yes.
our audience.
I'm a nerd.
understand. Well, yeah.
That was very
That's why
simplified.
we're all here.
You
Except
wanted
Greg.
simple.
Somewhere between that and describing mathematical functions.
Yes. Let's find a middle ground.
Well, if
there.
I start describing mathematical functions and lemmas and proofs to theorems, you're just going to fall asleep.
Okay, just give me the
Exactly.
basics of what you do.
I write software.
There you go.
There you go.
See?
That's
a
good.
qualifier
Spot
right
on.
there.
Okay.
Okay.
But when we started the real deal, Colin was a cast member for a while, coming on reading the news. Like, now you say,
Oh,
like
the movie
why-
news.
Why was there a news segment on an Access show? Hey, it was Access. We were trying everything.
Because it was Access.
We had a monkey for a while.
When
We
was
had
this?
time and it was free.
I don't even remember this. When was this?
It was early on when I got there.
Well, like 12, 13 years ago?
This was before
Yeah,
I
pretty
got
much.
there. Yeah. So we got here two guys on either side of the Watchmen dilemma.
Gotta have a point counterpoint. That was your idea,
Exactly. We've got Rick Claw on the worst movie ever.
Yeah, because we don't have enough
side.
arguing already.
And Colin Smiley on the best movie ever
Can
side.
I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
How does being a computer programmer qualify him?
Oh.
To
Well, he was
critique
actually
Watchmen?
on
Shut up. How
a
about
movie
that?
show.
Already.
I was actually on a movie show.
Yes.
Whoa!
What do you got, buddy?
Oh, okay. So this is starting early. Wow. First blood.
So while we are going to talk about the other works of Alan Moore, let's just cut to the chase here and fucking talk about The Watchmen at first, because that's
Good,
what
'cause I'm
everybody
tired of
wants to
talking
hear.
about the Watchmen.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But Rick
let's
here
get
has
over
written
with.
3 articles
Me too.
about this in the last week.
Yes,
so.
I did.
Rick
I mean,
is the biggest
holy-
Alan Moore expert that I know.
I mean, holy damn it, Christmas at Staple last week. That is all anyone talked about. Watchmen. Have you seen it?
Well, this will be the moratorium, like when we did with The Dark Knight, where we were like, no more after this. This will be it. So let's get it all out and done with this time. Bo, what
And
do you...
speaking of that's it, I just want to put this out there. If you
Here it
do
is.
have your headphones on at work and you're listening to this and you have not seen The Watchmen yet, turn it off. Go see The Watchmen and then come back and listen to it. Or you forfeit your right to be a whiny little bitch and say, you spoiled things!
Yes.
Because we're going to spoil the fuck out of this movie.
There's going to be no,
Yeah.
whoa, we can't talk about that. We're going to fucking talk about it.
Right.
Okay?
What kind of spoilers? I mean,
Yeah, I know. It's not like there's a book that everybody hasn't read already.
yeah.
But
How
it's
can you
true.
spoil this?
You can expose the differences between what was in the book and what was in the movie. A lot of people would consider that to be a spoiler. Well, this is all done. What I'm doing is I'm giving us carte blanche to talk about anything the fuck we want without having people going, "You spoiled this for me and I haven't seen it yet." No excuse. Turn the thing off. Go see the movie.
Yeah, at least as far as The Watchmen. I don't think we should do that with the other Alan Moore stuff we
Right.
discussed, but with The
But
Watchmen...
with the Watchmen,
yeah.
we're going to spoil it. We're gonna spoil The
Ozymandias
Watchmen
did it.
as much as Zack Snyder.
shit, I'm outta here.
Ozymandias did it. We're just get that out of the way
if you
now.
can't be bothered to spend the time to look at something that's been out for 25 fucking years, it's your own fault.
It's not like with The Lord of the Rings, where it's like, oh god, that would take a while to read. This would take you a day or two to read.
and it's not boring like Lord of the Rings.
No, wait a minute.
You're
The
not
Lord of the
winning
Rings
any
is-
friends here.
Lord of the Rings has been out for like 50 years. You had plenty of time.
That's true. All right. So, how are we going to start?
And it would take you all 50 years to get through reading Lord of the Rings.
I mean, we'll start with me and Leon here, just to say, like, to sort of refresh
Read
where
the
we came from
Silmarillion
on the
5 times,
on
you
the actual spill broadcast of this. Where I mean, I gave it a high matinee.
Sure.
I don't think this is a particularly great adaptation of the book per se, but I did enjoy it just as a movie in and of itself. Yeah, it's flawed. I mean, I'll tell you right now, that girl who played Silk Spectre 2 can't act her way out of a wet paper bag. She's awful in every movie she's ever been in, including this.
You really don't have to put the addendum of 2 on it. They
Actually-
were both pretty much at that
Actually,
level.
They were both pretty
a friend
bad.
of mine who I saw at Staple last week, and actually the publisher Mojo Press was there,
Yeah.
and he and I were talking, and he said the best thing about her was that her tits were real.
Yeah.
He said,
I was
it's a
gonna say-
very refreshing thing to see in a movie, and that was probably the best thing about her in the
and
entire
she had
movie.
legs all the way up to her neck.
Yes.
The only thing Malin Ackerman could act her way out of was her clothes.
See, we
Nice one,
agree. I don't see what you guys are talking
And
about.
that's
No, but
agreement.
that's the thing. Even the biggest fans of this movie agree that she couldn't really act.
Well,
but there's lots of superhero stuff where I concur that there's bad stuff about it that's come out, and I still enjoyed it. I mean, I talk shit about Tim Burton's Batman all the time because to this day I still go, it's a mediocre superhero film, but one I've seen like 30 times. It's still a superhero movie that's got enough good about it that I enjoyed it regardless.
Absolutely, and
Super-
Batman's a lot of fun, and so is, for that matter, Batman Returns is a lot of fun. I mean, I've got no problem with either of those things. Obviously, I think Begins and Dark Knight are superior, but
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because for me, Watchmen is like when I saw Tim Burton's Batman the first time. Because, like, wow, was I wowed. Finally, somebody took Batman serious. It was the Batman movie that I'd always wanted to see. And I just thought it was great. And I had to go back and see it again. I loved it even more the second time. And I ran into Kyle Baker at a convention. Everybody I knew loved it. He was the first guy who said, like, man, Batman sucked. And I was offended. I was like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? How could you say that? It's the first time anybody's treated this seriously. And you New York elitist snob. And then I saw it a third time. And I was like, huh.
That's going to be you, Rick.
There's some things about this that are not quite kosher. And when I saw it the fourth time, like without the me being all excited about it and just like watching it as a movie for itself, I was like, wow, this movie's actually pretty fucking
agree with
stupid.
him 100% on Batman.
There's so many things about it that it's like the things that are wrong with it are the things that like an entry level story editor could have caught and said, don't do this. This doesn't make sense. Anybody, I mean, all these hundreds of people on this production, and nobody could come in and say like, "That's a bad move. Don't do that."
Yeah,
or, this
It was
doesn't make
about
sense.
the vision.
And
I think
with Watchmen, the mistakes. Okay, people like it killed me when people said that accused us of nitpicking it because I didn't nitpick it. I could nitpick it. Wasn't interested in that. Thematically, it bugged me. It bugged me that he wanted to make a movie. He's saying like, "Hey, I'm making a movie for adults now." But
And
then,
he totally did.
But
He
then
made a superhero movie.
He made it very much a comic book movie with a teenage sensibility, pumping the violence to R-rated, to making it gory for no reason. That's the kind of thing you do to titillate kids. That's not for adults.
I agree. That was the biggest. That was probably okay. I could ignore the bad acting because come on, it is still
Sure,
superhero
whatever.
movie, and that's not to denigrate superhero movies. It's just that so many of them have had bad acting in them,
Yeah,
so we're
but-
kind of used to it at this point. What I am talking about the worst thing about this was that they did want so badly to hit you over the head and go, "It's for adults, it's for adults, it's for adults," that it made it even more for kids by doing that.
Exactly. It's like he undercut his own point. And that's probably overall the biggest problem I had with it. I mean, I work with a guy who just loves Watchmen. He talks about it every day. And even he said, not even meaning to say it, he said like, well, it's like watching the cartoon version of the book. And I'm like, that's it exactly.
It's
a living cartoon.
What I talked about in my review of it is it's a parody.
That's
It's a parody of
totally
the
said
book.
that. Yeah, it's a parody of the book.
parody of the book.
But the book itself is a societal parody. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
come on, it's Alan Moore's version of the Republican 80s.
I have no problem with
True.
that. I have no problem with that. I
have
love
we-
the book.
so
have
then
we-
it
have
comes
we started
across
the
as
match?
homage.
No, because there are parodic elements in
Right, but
Watchmen,
it's not-
But what Watchmen boils down to is it is a book about morality, and that is the two poles: the moral absolutism that you have of Rorschach, and the total moral ambiguity that you have of Dr. Manhattan, because they're coming from two completely different perspectives.
And that was held intact in the movie.
I disagree.
That
I disagree.
thematic element.
I agree with
disagree
you.
heartily.
It is not held intact in that movie.
If they had the main precise theme that when you're discussing Rorschach are those prison interviews, and he could have easily trimmed away a lot of fat and had those interviews go over a period of time. And in fact, they could have started out the movie with Rorschach in jail and start doing those interviews, because his framework, when he finally breaks down and says, "Here's how it is, Doc," that this world is a black pit that we can inscribe our design upon. And I don't feel that Zack Snyder did that. I think that he jam-packed some things to give you some character indications for Rorschach, but he certainly did not have this black hole of ambiguity.
When he killed that midget, that was fucking awesome.
See? You see that reaction he just had? That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, the hot fat scene, that was awesome. I'll give that up.
No, but
totally.
see, okay. Now, when Bo and I were arguing a bit about this earlier today, and I was like, you are nitpicking, you just don't see the way in which you're nitpicking. You're nitpicking from the sort of way that you're mad that it's not carrying over the themes from the book accurately. It's going someplace completely different, and it just wants to be a fun movie on the whole.
and
I think it achieves that.
But I don't think
change
that
the
was
ordering of it. Every fanboy would be up in arms,
But see, that's-
screaming about "You touched it wrong."
Well, here's the problem. One of the problems with the movie is that he stays too close to the book. Yeah. All right. Because the comic is written as a comic book. All right. It's envisioned as a comic. The story itself, in Watchmen, and I know a lot of people are going to get pissed off at me about this, is not that good of a story. Its story itself is a very stereotypical superhero story that's told in a very good fashion. Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons figured a new way to tell a comic book story. They took a tired old idea and gave it new life. And when you take it on the screen, and if you don't understand how they did that, you're just putting a tired old story on the screen.
It's just another mad scientist blowing up the
Exactly, and it's
world.
the
Or
morality
not blowing
play.
up the world, as the
right,
case
but
may
see,
be.
Killing hundreds to save thousands.
Right,
It's been
yeah,
every
but that-
Hollywood story since
But
the
that
beginning
is
of
a
time.
black and white morality, and the point of Watchmen is the juxtaposition of a black and white morality towards no morality whatsoever from the perspective of Dr.
Which is the
Manhattan.
point of a lot of Alan Moore's work.
Well,
is,
yeah,
do the ends justify the means?
But see, one of the things about Alan Moore's work, though, is Alan Moore tells stories different, especially when he did Watchmen. He told it differently than other people had done it before. He took elements from outside the genre, if you want to call comics a genre, and brought them into the field. The things like the nonlinear storytelling, which before then nobody did in comics, all right, and was very common in prose fiction. But he brought them in and made it work. But it's a standard superhero story. Alan Moore would be the first person to tell you that.
Well, when
No, he
he's
wouldn't.
done chanting and
But
snorting mushrooms.
But it is, and the reason it doesn't translate well to a movie is that Zack Snyder is incapable of telling this story in a way that nobody's seen before. He doesn't understand his source material. He's a fanboy that sees it in fanboy eyes.
I don't even think he's a fanboy.
That's a quote. Put that on the cover of the DVD.
Yeah, it'll increase sales.
And if that's what you're looking for, my God, you'll get it.
I want to take a minute here, just because I want to dance back and forth on this, and go to Jason real quick here, who I know you saw the movie, but I honestly haven't heard the first
Yeah, I
thing,
don't
so
know what
I'd
you
like to
think
hear a
of it.
little mini review from just Jason here of what you thought about the movie.
I thought it was cool. It was all right. I
call it or what?
Yeah.
I said that's exactly what you would say.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, but it was. I mean, a lot of it was over the top, where it shouldn't be. It had camp where it shouldn't, and there was a lot of poor acting, and he cut out a lot of stuff that would have helped maintain the subtext of the movie, but kept a lot of stuff that he should have trimmed. I mean, all things considered, it shouldn't have been a movie. It should have been an HBO miniseries because there was some stuff in there that would just. It was just dripping with fat. It was like, get rid of this shit. It just does not need to be in there. It's dragging it all down. But then there was a lot of other things in there, like Rorschach's interviews, where it's like, okay, this really gets to the core of the story, and you left it out. Or you teased us with it by saying, all right, well, I put the psychiatrist in there, and that's not quite enough. I thought it was fun. It was okay. But yeah, of course, it's really just a shadow of the book.
It was like the Oprah version of the Rorschach interviews.
Yeah, I was thinking that exactly.
Or better yet, Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Tell me, Rorschach, how do you really feel? How does this make you feel that you did this?
Well, and also,
let me tell you something, Rorschach. You can't go on with those feelings. You're going to have to stop throttling criminals. That's all there is to it. You just
can't
need to
bottle
stop.
them up inside you like that.
He kidnapped and killed a girl. And how's that working out for you?
Was your mama a whore, Mr. Kovacs? Was she a whore?
If only. I would love to see Dr. Phil get violently murdered on television by Rorschach.
Little meat cleaver in the forehead action.
And another thing that when I talk about him being a fanboy, he insults the the viewer in the beginning of the movie by having the whole scene showing us how the comedian dies. That whole opening scene.
Why is that insulting?
Because the graphic novel never treats you like an idiot. Okay, he laid it all out for you, and something that he does flashbacks of throughout the entire thing. In the comic, they start with the crime people, the guys showing up, and you learn about it in flashbacks as you're reading the book. Here, he's laid it all out for you immediately, and then goes to flashbacks again. We're not idiots.
Now, see, okay, I'm going to take you to task on this. Only in that was something I was willing to forgive, and you'll fall into the trap of comparing the movie to the book.
Yes,
I want to make it absolutely clear.
And I don't think that was a beneficial way of breaking down. You're just saying
no,
I liked it better the way the book did.
No. I would be okay with it if everything else had been a little deviated from the book, or if he wasn't trying to ape the book so closely. And if everything else had been okay, if he had gotten it right.
Let me also point out that Columbo, at every episode of Columbo, they show you the crime.
And I know that
at the very beginning.
When they do that
from a complete filmmaking perspective, I don't think it really made that much of a difference whether they showed the crime being committed or not from the beginning or in flashback, but that could have been so much faster. Instead, they have this great big fucking fight scene, and it's just like, really? You're going to have a big knife fight between Ozymandias? In the book, they don't have that. He just picks him up and throws him out through the fucking window.
Well, I'm hung up on the whole thing of, I'm really thinking that Peter Falk should have played Rorschach.
That'd be great. I'm gonna go tell. I gotta tell the man who's not gonna die.
It's all human bean juice.
And since when did all the characters in Watchmen, along with Dr. Manhattan, actually have superpowers? Like all of them were able to
no
punch
shit.
through walls.
Yeah,
and
the fight sequences. It's just like
it was
wait a minute.
absurd.
No. He was juicing.
I feel like they lost a lot of the idea because it wasn't until Dr. Manhattan came that there was even the concept of someone who actually had genuine superpowers.
This is a good time for Grant to move to his version of his moment in the sun with his review of Watchmen.
I think mine is pretty much in line with the rest of the majority, and that I thought it was okay. I think I might have actually liked it a little more than most. There was a couple things I absolutely hated, and first off, you have to completely disassociate this from the Watchmen comic book, which I think is almost impossible, especially in the nerd psyche, because we're all going to grasp onto that and immediately try and compare it. But this is definitely not like the comic book, and the two things I would have enjoyed this just as a film itself, except the ending tried to pull a Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, where it just never fucking ended, and I was so angry.
Well,
at least
they weren't all like hugging and kissing each other. That would have been a little
come
awkward.
on, it should have ended like with Rorschach being killed right around then. That would be it.
No,
It's also the same ending as The Dark Knight.
It was a lot less gay than Lord of the Rings.
Honestly, it would have made more sense, really, if it was a little more like that, because, after seeing it the whole movie, I really expected somebody to get on their knees and suck that giant cock. I mean, they were just waiting for something to happen with it.
No, seriously, I think there's a lot of homoerotic subtext going on with Zack Snyder because, honestly...
No.
And this, here's the
Thanks,
thing.
Dr. Phil.
And I'm sure someone...
The deuce you say, sir.
I'm sure someone on the internet has said this, but this is Watchmen!
I thought it was, this is Blue Wang!
Well, come on. I mean, after Rorschach's death, I mean, you wanted to end on a night
I-
owl
you
going,
know-
no!
Speaking of homoerotic context, I really think they should have just cut to the chase and had Joel Schumacher play Ozymandias. It would have been just desserts for him.
Would you like to pet my cat?
Would you like to pet my cat?
Would you like to pet Bubastis?
Well, he was there to design Ozymandias' costume.
Yes, quite obvious.
I just think they gave the audience closure the audience didn't necessarily need, and it prohibited what I thought could have been a lot more thought-provoking debate about the actions of Ozymandias even destroying, which, that is another huge thing I have an issue with, but with him actually destroying the city. And was it only one? Because they didn't show the other cities.
That's true.
Yeah.
They did.
They did.
They did.
They've got
did.
the little TV screen. It shows like craters
Okay.
in Paris.
'Cause
And
You couldn't
England.
tell because they were gone.
They destroy cities.
I
and
know
they,
usually when it says Paris, they show the Eiffel Tower. In this case, it was just a big smoking hole.
Well, yeah,
but
because it was no longer.
exactly.
The Eiffel crater.
how they destroy the cities, I'm sure we'll address that in a minute. But also
And the Watchmen too.
the soundtrack was abominable.
Oh,
That
God.
was the worst part.
Yeah.
If they had scored the thing, I might have enjoyed it. But
some of the
If that
music
soundtrack had hands, you could smoke them and feed every non-Jewish and Muslim person in the world with the ham. Oh my God!
It was some of the music cues were so.
Oh, when they started to go
and
into
painful.
like the sound of silence.
Oh, God.
I
laughed
funeral
out
scene.
loud on
Oh,
that
I did too.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
and everybody wants to rule the world.
That would have been
Not
funny
subtle at
if it had
all.
happened
Only good
after we
music.
already knew
Yeah.
what was going on with Ozymandias. But it was like, what the fuck, guy? You want to just give away the whole plot of the movie
See, but
here?
the music,
musical
the
cues?
music plays more into what I'm talking about, it being a parody.
Right.
That
Yeah.
really enhances that whole feeling with the music. You're like, oh, come on. Like,
But sadly, it wasn't a parody.
I know that's
the
if
problem.
it had been a
It
parody,
was a parody of a parody.
Given Alan Moore's opinion of Hollywood in general, it would have been great if he was just like, "Oh, you don't like movies? Well, fine. Watch what I'm gonna do," and went straight out and made a parody.
Which brings us to a question from Matt, who said, what was Alan Moore's problem with Watchmen being made into a movie? Did he just not want his work to be on the big screen? Or was his problem with Hollywood in general?
I can.
I think
He clearly watches a lot of television.
Well, Rick
Yeah,
has
well,
the
he was
appropriate
on The
answer,
Simpsons.
so
Yeah.
Rick has the actual answer. So let's put him on hold for a second. No, and I just want to say it's because he is absolutely divested from reality, and he's bug shit crazy.
You shush me to let Rick talk, but then you crowbar in your own comments?
No. I was going to say, let's get all of our bullshit smartass answers out of the way.
And then let the professor speak after.
Alan Moore hates
everybody.
everybody. That's why.
I don't have a smart-ass answer because I think Alan Moore's right. They are his creations, and what Hollywood has done so far doesn't live up to what he's done. I completely understand him being disappointed
There's only
and saying,
been
like,
one
hey.
thing that they've done well. And it's V for Vendetta.
And even
V for Vendetta was great.
Even that's not 100%.
He never saw it.
No. I mean, V for Vendetta, even though I like it, I could see how he would not like it. In fact, I read his comments on why he doesn't like it. I was like, shit, he's right.
Well, I thought he didn't even see it.
Yeah, he's seen it.
But okay, whether he saw it or not, the
screenplay.
things he said he didn't like about it was exactly what I felt about it. It was like, it's really accurate, probably more accurate than I ever expected, but it's still missing some of the teeth.
Okay, he does not like movies. He does not like the movie-making process. He does not like the amount of money that are spent on movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just...
That's all part of it. Yeah, there's that part of it. And also, well, actually, what he does with his money, when he gets paid for a project, he gives it all to the artist.
Yeah. Well, someone else asked about that. How come he took money for this early?
He didn't take money.
He gave it all to Dave Chappelle.
Somebody asked that.
That was
I
from-
thought he took his name off of it completely and doesn't even get paid.
No,
anymore.
he gets paid.
That question about somebody saying like he took $30,000,
Yeah,
blah blah
why
blah.
you
That
take
was
the
from
money?
Don Murphy, and it was complete bullshit.
He
It
didn't
was
get-
just Don Murphy.
Well, it's like, oh, if he didn't like it, why did he take the money? It's like, why shouldn't he take the money? He did create the fucking thing.
Right.
Well, either way, he didn't keep the money.
He gave
and
it
it
to-
wouldn't matter if he did or not.
Right.
What fucking difference does
Well,
it matter?
it's like they want to get you either way. It's like,
Yeah.
if you take the money, it's like, oh, you're a sellout. I guess you want the money anyway. If you don't take the money, it's like, oh, you're crazy. You
Dude,
wouldn't
if
even
they
take the money.
offered me $100,000, hell, if they offered me $5,000 right now to have a movie of LEOG with Miley Cyrus playing me, I'd say yes. Give me the fucking money. Come on, man. Let's be
That'd
realistic
be perfect
here.
casting, actually.
She'd have to shave, but
It would actually be the best of both worlds.
These guys would be happier.
Very nice. 2 points for Jason.
So Rick,
he
what,
doesn't even have kids. So
Okay, so
wait a
this
minute.
is-
You may
what,
be a
what is
pedophile.
the
then.
reason?
the reason beyond the fact that you're right about the movie stuff, okay, that his opinions about movies, he's spoken about that many times. You know, that you spend as much in a movie as you do like supporting a third world nation.
Right.
His other point is that he wrote it as a comic book. That's the way he conceived it. If he wanted to write it as a movie, he would have written it as a movie.
Well, people tend to think that everything deserves a movie adaptation.
Right, not
and it's
everything
simply
does.
not true.
But that's not to say there's anything wrong with someone else choosing to interpret and do it that way.
Sure.
The book will always be there.
Right, but if he wanted, I'm just saying that's his opinion on it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a right opinion or a wrong opinion. That's his opinion.
Well, he has actually outright said he doesn't like or watch movies.
He watches older movies. I've seen articles where he talks. He loves classic film.
You know, here's the thing, though. It's like I don't remember who it was, but some author, some comic book writer has come along, and I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Alan Moore, of course, but he came along and said, "Yeah, see all of my books and graphic novels and comics,
Right.
After you made this movie, they're still sitting on the shelves, and you didn't desecrate them or anything. You made a movie, you paid me a lot of money, your movie sucked, whatever. My comics are still fine. It's like I cash the check, you do whatever the fuck you want to do." And I think really, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with remakes. It's like the remake is still untouched, or the original is still untouched. Go ahead and make whatever piece of shit you want.
So when you read the Watchmen, when you get to the part where Dr. Manhattan kills Rorschach, you're not going to see Night Owl pop out of the door and go, "No!" anymore.
Actually, I don't even mind the response to that. It's
Really?
just
I did.
It's just no. It's the way that they filmed it, which was basically like Night Owl sitting behind them, like playing with his nuts.
Yeah.
Not doing anything and going, what's this all about? And then and Dr. Manhattan slowly raising his hand, and he's like, I wonder what he's doing. And then all of a sudden, Rorschach's
going to knight him.
Rorschach's a bug splat, and he's like, oh my God, he killed him!
You bastard!
Mendoza!
But I love how after the big no,
He becomes Darth Vader?
Yeah, he just went, oh well,
Well,
and walked back inside.
that's pretty much it. That was like
Fucker kept eating my beans.
Who's the guy who plays Dan Dreiberg?
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. That was pretty much his attitude towards everything in the movie. He's like, I'm going to say this line right now, and when I'm done, I'm going to turn around. Okay. Oh my God, he completely threw away one of the best lines in the fucking movie. He's like, what do you expect? The comedian's dead. They could have had Barney Fife fucking do that. What do you expect? The comedian's dead. And it would have had more emotional fucking impact.
The incredible Mr. Night Owl.
I hate to break it to you, but most of our audience has no idea who Barney Fife is.
Oh, come on. Don't be a Corey. Nobody knows what that is. Shut up.
That guy who used to act
your
with,
Googles.
yeah, the guy who used to act with Matlock.
Yeah, he was the landlord on Three's Company.
He was in Toby.
No,
he
still
was
no,
in
no,
More
no,
recent,
still
more
no.
recent,
Yeah, more
please.
recent.
He was in that Toby Maguire
Pleasantville.
movie.
He was in Pleasantville. He was the old guy in
There
Pleasantville.
you go.
Oh, Don Knotts.
Yes, Don Knotts.
Okay.
Ah, got it.
And it's Knotts when you get on Wikipedia. That's how you'll find it.
He's one of the funniest mans in the
The
world.
Apple
Funniest man
Dumpling
in the world.
Gang.
Yeah.
Hooray!
See, Mr. Furley?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Burley.
That was
Yeah.
Mr. First.
So Unnamed has a question. Do you actually think you can make a faithful film adaptation of The Watchmen? After reading it for the third time, I've come to the conclusion that it isn't possible. The writing of that graphic novel is so you can't say or do all what is happening, even in one frame and one scene of a film. A 10-hour film would never give you the feeling that reading The Watchmen gave me. Well, welcome to the discussion.
Rick, Colin, you're both right. It's a floor wax and a dessert top.
Why would you want to make a faithful adaptation of anything?
Why not?
Because it's a comic book. It's the comic. This is a comic. This is a movie. If
I-
you wanted a comic, you reread the
Oh, I
comic.
see what you're saying. Okay.
You can go see the movie Grapes of Wrath, which is a great fucking movie, and
Right.
you'll enjoy the hell out of it. And you can also read the John Steinbeck novel, The Grapes of Wrath, and they're going to be two completely different experiences.
And they're both going to be
Is that
great in their
anything-
own
gonna be
way.
great.
Is
In
that
their
anything
own-
like
in their
Star
own
Trek
way.
2?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So does The Dark Knight not rate as a faithful adaptation?
No, it's not an
Well,
adaptation.
it's not adaptation
it's
really
it's
at
not
all.
It's
because
not-
it's not coming from a direct source.
Right.
Right.
No, it's coming more from a feeling.
Well,
the thing is, I was just like the other day, like I finally got my Blu-ray player working, woohoo, and watching Batman Begins, and that movie's awesome. I mean, sure, The Dark Knight has kind of shadowed it, but you go back and watch it, and it's so
still
much
so great.
Yeah, it's so great, and it's like it's so like I always compare it to Dickens reading it. This story of Bruce Wayne coming up from his humble.
That's
was-
Charles Dickens for
His
you guys.
humble millionaire beginning.
His humble millionaire beginning. But the thing is, you watch.
That's why he's going to his psychiatrist for his
I
antipsychosis
loved the
drugs.
part where Bruce was working in the shoe polish factory to work off his parents' debt since they were in debtor's prison.
I like the part where Mrs. Havisham trained him to be a ninja.
That's why he's going to his psychiatrist's office for more of the antipsychotic medicine, going, please, sir, can I have some more?
Okay,
Please, sir, can you do something about my voice?
I know. Perhaps Dickens was the wrong reference. To this I would just say that the thing about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight is that they are real movies. Christopher Nolan set out to make a movie about Batman. He wasn't making, let me make the greatest comic book movie. He's like, I'm going to make a real movie, a crime movie.
No, I'm going to make a good movie.
I'm going to make a good
it.
crime movie, but the main character is Batman, and it's shot in real locations, and you have great actors, and he knows how to direct actors. And if there's one problem with the movies, the action scenes, aren't filmed as well. But you know what? So what? It doesn't take that much away.
And
from
for
it.
those of you playing the LEOG drinking game at home,
You
Batman,
should be fucking smashed by now.
Batman and The Dark Knight has been referenced 14 times in this conversation. So go immediately to the hospital.
Well,
werewolf, I will fight.
I
here's
just
50.
don't have any feeling for these comic book movies like Sin City and The Spirit, and even like the Star Wars prequels, where everything's shot in a goddamn soundstage on a green screen because there's no human. There's so much of the human element taken out of it. Even the actors have trouble, conveying real emotions in them.
Which I don't think will always be the case. I think that we could definitely do good movies on green screen
I
like
think-
that. There just haven't been
they
that
haven't been
many.
done yet.
Yeah,
I don't think there's been any great directors that have tried to tackle the technology.
Yeah.
There isn't been, like a Christopher Nolan, for example, who's a really good director, trying to use his technology and bring it to another level.
Yeah.
He did that with IMAX.
Which is ludicrous.
Well, yeah,
because
he did, but it was different.
If you study, the history of stage theater, I mean, actors act without being able to see what's supposedly there all the fucking time. I mean, you don't actually walk into the theater to see Shakespeare's Tempest or you're transported to an island immediately.
Yeah, but then you also
Shakespeare
didn't
in the
have
round,
some
no
snotty
props.
kid with a backwards baseball cap who hasn't showered in 3 days holding a tennis ball on the end of a stick going, talk to the tennis ball, goddammit! Fuck, he's not talking into the tennis ball!
Apparently, you have not done a lot of community theater.
Actually, well, the Shakespeare thing is a good analogy. I mean, the best Shakespeare I've ever seen is stuff that's on a small stage without anything.
Peter Moore's Midsummer Night's Dream, where they did it in a black box.
Oh, that's the one that's in the Sandman comic.
Peter Moore. Yes.
A reference Jason can understand.
And the circle is now complete.
What'd you say, Greg?
So Christian Bale was right to be yelling when somebody walked into.
Oh, he was damn right.
Hell yeah.
I'm totally on his side.
Concentration.
The DP should have known better.
Yeah, that whole thing
fucking
was,
Batman.
That whole thing was so taken
Always
out of
right.
context. And honestly, for a celebrity supposedly having a meltdown on set,
was nothing.
it was about as polite as you can
He
get
was.
about
He
it.
did,
pretty tame.
Not
I
only
thought
did,
that was
not only
great,
did he
actually. I
not,
loved it.
it wasn't a personal attack. He stopped to say, like, look, you're a nice guy. Personally, you're a nice
Yeah,
guy.
but you are going way past the bounds of what's acceptable
Yeah,
on a
you
set.
are not doing your
and
job.
he
You're not
was,
professional.
according to all reports on the set, that he was being the guy was totally out of line.
So, back to Christopher Nolan for a minute. The reason the Batman movies worked was not because they followed the comic exactly.
He
was
knew
because
where to
they-
take liberties.
They transcended it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He took the theme, the story, the main points, the character, and what drives the character, and worked from there. And that's why it worked.
And that's
But
why
going back to
Watchmen didn't
Watchmen,
work.
well, it sounds
Zack
like
Snyder did not.
Are you undercutting your own point?
No, I'm not.
Are y'all making an argument that it makes no sense to try and do an adaptation of a book?
Not that
'Cause, I mean,
slavishly.
The
No,
Lord of
not
the
panel to
Rings
panel.
was pretty close to the books on the whole. I mean,
And
they
Lord of the
cut
Rings
out
is a
lot,
great
but-
example because they know where to turn away. They're like this is a story about a quest. It's a story about heroism and friendship and relationships.
But
They
there's
cut a lot.
so many geeks who are like,
Oh, yeah.
the scouring of the
my
Shire
God.
and
You
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, you don't
Oh my
have Tom
gosh.
Bombadil.
I have no idea who Tom Bombadil is,
But-
except I had so many people
Good.
complaining that he wasn't
But
in
the-
there.
You don't need to have
He's a
him.
waste. He sang a
the
bunch.
overall reaction to Lords of the Ring, it was overwhelmingly positive.
Yes.
And that you can tell by just listening to looking at the internet today that this movie is not being received in a resoundingly positive way. It's very fracturing. It's people that are
the
very
problem
happy
is-
that they've made this kind of pastiche of scenes from the comic books and put them up on the screen, and then there are people that are not happy at all with the fact that it's not that good of a movie.
What were you saying, Colin?
The problem is you have one side where people are like, you must be slavishly faithful to the material. You have the other side where we're going to just kind of loosely wing it based on the material. And in between is where Zack Snyder went.
No,
Not
I
to one or the
disagree
other.
completely.
I disagree completely. And Peter
No, if
Jackson,
he could have been more slavish to
Yeah,
it.
Peter-
However,
Peter Jackson
the
was
reason it's
not
the reason
just-
Watchmen isn't as successful as perhaps Snyder and the studio wanted it to be is because all the people who've never read the book have no idea what the hell's going on. They don't. They don't get
and
it.
if it was a well-made movie, they should have.
Even
Well,
without
I
being-
wonder if we're missing a third demographic in this. I
still liked
has
it.
anyone not actually read? Have you seen the
I
movie,
was about
Greg?
to say, we need to talk to Greg.
Me? That's me.
Greg, have you actually seen
I've
the
not
movie?
seen the movie and I haven't read the book. No, but I don't care. But I'm different. I like the discussion.
He was
here.
watching the game.
Hey,
He had money on his characters
By the
winning.
way, hey, it was a great college game, 6 overtimes last night.
Syracuse and UConn, baby.
exactly.
It was an awesome game.
You need to come back to help
Hey,
me with the sports
what
thing.
the
But
hell's
anyway.
happening here?
No,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So now hijacking the
anyway,
show for
but
You all shut up now! No sports!
wait. The point, the way I can relate to what you guys are talking about is like a song, right? You have the original tune.
You want to
and
hear
the
it?
cover-
Goes a little something like this.
And no, but I mean, you had the original tune and you had the cover tune. Now, like, say Twist and Shout, which is originally an Isley Brothers tune. I like the Isley Brothers version, but I do like the Beatles version too.
Me too.
Everybody knows the Beatles
I
version.
prefer the Matthew Broderick version if we want to.
Shut up.
But
I'm going to stick with
Derivative
Will on this
work.
one.
No, but all I'm saying though is that the point of like either you go faithfully to it or you take liberties with it, where like it's a very fine line. And as somebody who hasn't seen either one of them, and which I actually feel kind of lucky that I haven't, or read the first one or seen the movie, I think I'll be able, when I do actually see the movie, probably when it comes on DVD, and when I read the novel, I think I'll be able to take all of what you guys are saying. And
Well, it's like when I heard "Live and Let Die" and I went, "Wait, someone did that before Guns N' Roses?"
blasphemy! Get him out of here!
I know, but I'm sorry, I'm from a
serious?
different
Are
generation.
you serious?
I think the
Probably
film.
like James Bond. It was a James Bond.
I just think this is the problem with Watchmen because this is what everyone's going to be exposed to is this most recent version. And so when people try and say that, you should be able to distinguish the two. And can't you just love both? Yeah. Well, no, this one fucks up the other one. Now that this one's out, it's gonna influence how people perceive the
Why
other one.
specifically, though? Was it because he had to change the ending? I mean,
Because the movie sucked.
No, I think
Squid
what's
versus
gonna
Bomb.
That was one of the things that worked about it.
I think what's going to end up
actually.
happening
I agree,
is,
the ending
and
did
what I'm
suck in the
seeing
book.
happening is people who don't like it talking about how much they don't like it, and then people who've read the book going, "Look, man, I hear what you're saying, but really, you have to see why
Well,
it wasn't good and
that
read
was my
this book."
point.
And reading the book because of that, or people loving the movie, reading the book and going, "Oh my god, the book really is a lot better."
Well,
than the
when
movie."
you talked about my 3 articles I wrote about the Watchmen, one of the articles I wrote, the point was to talk about the book itself and why the book is important and the elements of the book. And then that was part of my reasoning. I wrote it before I saw the movie. But part of my reasoning was to put the book in context of why this is such a big deal. Because most people most non-geeks, the real people,
the rest of the world
the rest of the
outside of
world,
this living room,
Everybody else.
yeah, they're looking at it and going, well, what's the big deal about this movie? It's a bunch of guys in tights running around beating things up. We've seen this before. And it's not that big of a deal. But see, to us, it's a big deal because it's Watchmen.
yeah.
And Watchmen's this amazing book. And it did all these amazing things. It showed us all how to do these things differently.
Yeah. If this was a movie like, somebody got a wild hair up their ass and says, "I'm going to make a superhero movie about the Charlton comic superheroes," and it had been Blue Beetle and The Question and all these other guys that nobody gives a fuck about anymore, and they had done it and they had made this movie subbing out all those characters, I would have been like, this isn't that good. I don't feel involved with any of these
You
characters.
still would have said Zack Snyder's a shitty director.
Yeah, I would have been like, there's no characterization. The plot is choppy. It's convoluted. There's just not a lot happening.
So what
here.
you're saying is it would have been a longer, less funny version of Mystery Men.
Yes.
I didn't know you could get much less funny than Mystery Men was, but okay.
All right, let's.
Although that
I
was
think
Garofalo at
Pat-
her hottest.
I think Padawan should actually have a chance.
That's right.
I thought we were changing to Fish.
I
What's wrong with
like
you?
Fish.
I like Fish better.
Fish is good. If we're doing a Barney Miller reference,
Yeah,
It's an A&M thing.
This is
Yeah,
Okay.
Jason
From now on, it's Vagoda.
It's ironic because he's ancient, and Jason isn't.
Once again, go to Wikipedia.
No, the first time I watched it, I just kind of walked out. I feel like it was good. It was kind of good. I mean, and then I saw it again. I was like, fuck. It was all right. There's some stuff I liked,
you were
but
robbed.
for the most part, I was just like, shit.
Oh,
it Phantom
was
Menace to
bummed
you.
out.
That's what you're saying. You're trying to convince yourself you loved it.
I really was. I was like, I want this to be good so bad, but then I saw it
Phantom Menace
again.
is better.
Oh, that's a much better analogy.
Dude, I remember when Leon and I went to go see Phantom Menace and all the prequels. After every one, we were like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's all right, yeah, that's good." And hell, we even went back specifically
With
to
the
watch
looks on your
the
faces
second-
of two guys who have accidentally slept together.
Pretty
We
much.
shall never talk
It's
about this
okay.
again.
Let's just not talk about it.
Because we
again.
wanted so badly for it to be good. We were just convincing ourselves.
Yeah.
Like,
George Lucas, I wish I could quit you.
With every prequel after, you go like, well, it was better than the last one, right?
Yeah, well, by the time it was the third one, which is admittedly the best of the three.
Yeah, but it's still
make
like,
no
fuck these
mistake,
movies.
it's still not.
I got a
good
mic
movie.
now, bitches. Everybody shut the fuck up. I gave my mic over to Fish for a second. Grant got up and went to the bathroom, and
All right.
and I have
actually have
successfully
something to say.
convinced myself that the prequel films were good. So
So should we shut up now?
Attack of the
and-
Clones. Attack of
Wow,
the Clones.
on-
is the only
on-
movie I know of
wait a
that could
minute,
have done better with a montage in it.
on that note, Jason, you want to go camping this weekend?
I'm sorry, Fish.
We'll have to share
not-
a sleeping
Once
bag.
none of
I'm
those
not falling for that
people
one
jokes
again.
from me.
Why not? You fell for it 3 times.
Dude, the housing market is really cheap right now in Denial, so I can totally understand. You can get a townhouse for next to nothing.
Fish
Howard
has
the Duck's on
conch.
DVD. You can watch that instead.
Fish has the conch.
Yeah, talking conch to fish.
So no, the first time I saw it, the acting didn't really bother me. I saw it a second time. I was like pulling my hair out because even when the movie was announced, there's like, or at least the cast was announced, like I only have faith in like 2 of these actors, Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach, and I had faith in Patrick Wilson because he was awesome in Hard Candy.
Wait a minute, that wasn't Danny Bonaducci as Rorschach? I gotta watch that thing again.
Oh, you're mean.
It did kind of look like that.
It looked more than kind of like him.
Please Google Danny Partridge.
Now, Danny Bonaducci
People don't
is
see
way more ripped.
Breaking Bonaducci.
Yeah. I want to take a break here real quick and talk about this partially so I don't have to write about it, and that way I can just send here. Look, see, I reviewed it about Tales of the Black Freighter, which
This
is
had to
the
be a
DVD
lazy
they
reviewer.
sent out.
10 easy steps.
I was going to talk about the motion comic, but you go ahead with the Tales.
Right, we can talk about that too. But they put out this. They sent it to me on Blu-ray, the Tales of the Black Freighter, which is actually. It's interesting. It's a couple different things. I was worried it was just going to be the animated feature version of the comic book within the Watchmen comic book that they left out of the movie altogether. And I guess in this director's cut, they're reinserting it, is what I'm hearing. I don't know. I don't care. I think it's better done separately, personally.
Sure. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you remove if you add Black Freighter into the actual film itself, you lose the whole cool connection of the creator, the writer of the Black Freighter, who was involved in the creation of the whole squid thing. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
So if you add the Black Freighter in, sure, you've got some tenuous subtext there.
And for those of you who have not read the book, they really the monster at the end, the squid that they keep on talking about, they used Joe Orlando's brain to animate that.
So what they could do is make it that Dr. Manhattan's brain is actually Joe Orlando's brain. And that would conquer all those problems.
Well, they've taken this comic strip in it, which is like
Dude, I loved your work on Daredevil.
which is like a Tales from the Crypt episode, sort of, except as bloody as it could possibly be. I mean, this
Shocking.
is as NC-17 as horror gets.
Yeah.
About a guy who's shipwrecked, the captain of a ship after the evil pirates, like from I guess the Black Pearl or whatever, show up and wreck his ship, kill everyone on it, and he's the only survivor.
Well, and there's a scene where I assume they have it in there where he takes the bodies, and makes a sailing
raft.
ship.
Well, he has to make a raft out of the dead
Out of the
bodies
corpses.
of the
Clothes
corpses
on
of his ship
Right.
makes, which he's hallucinating. One of them talking to him and
Which,
everything.
why didn't the Lost guys think of that?
I know, that's what I'm saying. People keep dying left and right.
and an entire
Wow.
airplane full of them.
Well, as we know now, that wouldn't have worked anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
yeah.
The whole point of the Black Freighter was to sort of juxtapose comics how we have them now versus the comics in that world. It's like, well, superheroes are real. We don't need superhero comics, so it's pirates. Okay.
Well, in this DVD version of it, they've done a really damn good job animating it, even if it does have a little bit of that pseudo-Japanese look to it. Like it almost looks like it wants to become Aeon Flux at points, but with a more expensive style to it. And I totally forgot to look up who animated it, but Gerard Butler, big surprise, does the voice. It's mainly
Zack Snyder's
voiceover.
So doing Gerard Butler.
Yeah, because he started
In the
his
Butler.
300.
I just wanted to
Did you go there?
You love that joke.
Did you really go there?
Gerard Butler, or as Zack Snyder likes to call him, Mr. Yum Yum.
Butler Pirate. Can I get that in there?
that totally works.
But this isn't bad. I could see totally picking this up if you can find it inexpensive, and not just for that. I mean, that's fun, but it's only like 40 minutes long. The thing I really enjoyed on here was Under the Hood, which is based on the other thing left out of the movie,
Right. Okay.
which is the documentary from the 70s about the group before the Watchmen.
Right, and you were showing that before we started recording.
Yeah.
And here's my feeling on that. As well as it may or may not be done, it's like I've read it. I've read it in the graphic novel, and watching it, it's just kind of tedious because I'm like, you just have like these actors kind of acting out the thing I've seen already.
No,
it's not really
it's
adding
tedious in
anything.
the graphic novel too.
See, I disagree
I
with
like
you.
it. I like it.
I've been rereading it lately, and I've been really getting into it. But watching people
Yeah, I
just act
disagree
it
with
out
you about
and
that.
say those
It's
things.
like having to read a book or something, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah. There's these things without pictures.
It's the inherent problem with faithful adaptations. It's like, oh, you're just showing me everything I've already seen before, and really, I could skip what you're doing because I know this already.
No, the DVD, it makes me think of like they did some like YouTube promotions where it's like they've got the Dr. Manhattan, the information about the Keene Act. That was cool for like 3 or 4 minute videos.
Yes.
Just like, I don't think it could work for anything more than 20 minutes. I'd just be bored.
Well, the biggest problem is it's too long. It's 37 minutes.
Oh, Jesus.
And I
It's
do
all the
like it as a
background
it's
information.
a
all they're doing is
yeah.
setting up the universe.
It's
That's
a fun, curious thing, and it's nothing you probably would even want to sit and watch straight
Well,
through.
and here's the thing too. Just like we were talking about earlier, there's no point in doing an adaptation if you're not going to elevate it to something else. And if it's just the same thing that you've read over and over again and seen, then who cares?
So
it doesn't add anything.
If you enjoyed Watchmen, this is a good DVD to get.
If you liked Watchmen, you'll like this.
But if you didn't, this is just polishing a turd.
Well,
can you
guys
probably? It's not as like it doesn't have all the slow motion shit going on in the stuff that
Thank
people
God.
really hated so much. Who hated this movie?
Can you guys think of an adaptation that is actually improved on the original source material?
Yes, there's several. Not comics necessarily.
There's a little movie that came out in the 70s called what was it? The Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I adore the book The Godfather.
Right.
It was a gigantic bestseller. It was critically praised all over the place.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah, but
it's
I mean,
really,
it's not
I've read that
exactly-
book like 6 times.
I'm not going to disagree with you that it's not an entertaining book, but does it? I mean, as far as being a classic, you're not going to find it on the bookshelf with like John Steinbeck and Ernest Hemingway, whereas the movie is like the apex of.
Well, here's
good
even a
point.
better example: Jaws.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
movie is
not
much
a
better
good
than the
book.
Yeah.
But the movie is fantastic.
And I know this is a weird argument, and there's a lot back and forth. But, okay, Umberto Eco is one of those crazy eclectic authors who, like, if you really, really love Umberto Eco's style, where, you know, it's like having a dictionary on hand at all times, and you love, like, deep, weird, obscure history, then his books are great. But there's no way to make a movie of one of his books. The movie of Name of the Rose, his book is actually an excellent translation, and I've read the book, seen the movie. I like the movie better.
Well, I mean, I love Umberto Eco.
I do, too.
I loved Foucault's Pendulum. And,
I couldn't get through that one. That was like
that's
reading a
basically-
math handbook.
No, but that's basically that Dan Brown movie, but like really intelligent.
Well, it was that
version
Dan
of it.
Brown movie if it was written in a language you don't speak.
But, well, he's Italian, so it's translated.
Yeah,
All that
no.
stuff is translated.
If you
I
don't-
don't know the day before. I'm a big.
If you don't know what the word eschatology means, don't ever read Umberto.
If
Eco.
you don't know off the
Wikipedia.
top of your head what it is,
Is he
then
the guy
don't-
who
'cause
writes,
That's the easiest
not you
word
run
in there.
somewhere and look it up, because even if you do look it up and find out what it means, you'll forget it in 5 days.
Is he the guy who writes phonetically?
Hey,
like-
eschatology.
There
Like some
are other
things-
examples.
Okay,
Psycho
never mind.
is another good example.
Yeah, Psycho's an excellent example.
Yeah.
Robert
John
Block wrote
Carpenter's
the
The
original
Thing.
novel.
Right. I'm sorry.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Is that based on a book?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
remake.
it's
No,
a
but it's
remake
based on a book.
On a
Based on a
book.
book.
We're saying based
yeah,
on a book.
It's a remake of a film based on a book.
the remake improved.
Okay.
Lady from Shanghai.
What do you? Hold on, Darren's got one back there. What's that? The
Exorcist.
Exorcist.
Yes,
Good example,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Smoking the Bandit Part 2.
I like the book better. On that one.
Hey, remember when I was
bonsai?
remember when I was gonna take you out back and beat the crap out of you?
Oh, is it time?
Yes, it is.
Antonio?
A Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange is better than the book. It is true. I mean, the book is one of those ones, like, there are people who love it because it's so fucking weird the way it's written. I mean, it's almost impossible to get through.
The book
But-
is also it's dystopian and trading on the whole violent.
Yeah.
So yes,
what
the
he
short
felt the
answer
violent
is
nature of.
yes.
The,
There have been good adaptations.
I gotta get one. Gone with the Wind.
Oh
Fight Club.
I mean, the books.
I love the book of Fight Club. I'm about equal on those. But I'm
Yeah,
a
I don't
huge fan
think
of that
it
writer.
necessarily
So.
improved it so much as that one actually nailed the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah,
Fight Club
It
is
translated it perfectly.
Fight
in the
Club
book.
is how you translate
It's the
a
book.
Which is why
It
I
took liberties where it needed to, but
Some-
it was perfect.
So maybe not to sound like Leon, but David Fincher should have made the
was
watch.
gonna say, yeah,
there you go.
David Fincher, like not even so much from Fight Club, but just watching Zodiac and Benjamin Button. Those 2 movies proved to me that he would have been the guy to do The Watchmen because he can handle a
He was
long
in contention
story.
for a while, wasn't he?
Was he? I don't know.
Maybe
There's
it's
a
not
lot
the
of
best.
directors we can
Yeah.
name that.
Yeah,
I mean, could you imagine like somebody like Cronenberg
or Scorsese.
doing
Oh my
doing
God.
Watchmen?
Oh my God, Cronenberg doing Watchmen. I think I would have gotten a joy aneurysm from in like the first 15 minutes.
Cronenberg is really good at doing things that
That's
make
good
you
acting.
feel incredibly icky, but in a way that is intellectual. Like, you can't even really voice precisely why you feel so weird coming out of his movies.
Cronenberg
because he
would've
gets
just
under
been
your
doing the
skin.
Rorschach
And I don't
saga.
think that's The Watchmen. So,
No,
I'm
actually,
just-
what you just
Yeah.
described, that is The Watchmen.
You think?
Yeah, that's totally The Watchmen.
I wouldn't go that far.
I really feel that
'cause
Zack
Cronenberg-
Snyder did to The Watchmen what Christopher Columbus did to Harry Potter. in that he
I
gets
think
a
Zack
vision
Snyder
of
did
it.
to I think Zack Snyder did to Watchmen what Christopher Columbus did to America.
Man, what up? It's like you set him up for that.
Yeah,
Because
you
you
know-
didn't even call
okay.
him Chris Columbus. You
Win.
called him Christopher.
So Chris Columbus made a movie I didn't want to see out of a book I didn't want to read.
Well, you know what? I didn't want to read it first.
fight you.
Wow, thanks, Rich Little.
He has become the Rich Little of our group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now people look at
Wikipedia,
Oh, I'm sorry. People don't know who Rich Little is.
Yeah.
Phil
Wikipedia,
Hartman,
Rich Little.
Are you talking about
Adam Sandler,
that guy from
Jimmy
Police
Fallon?
Academy?
Way to go, Frank Gorshin.
Harry Potter was one of those books I didn't want to read either. And then when I finally did, I thought it was amazing. And when I saw Chris Columbus's movie, it was that watching experience. It was like, wow, you got every scene from the book in here, and yet I have none of the feeling that I got from the book watching your movie.
He did a great job in visualizing the world, but as far as storytelling and translating the story, he did an atrocious job, and he didn't direct the characters well. The acting was
and see what happened. You get to the third movie, and you have a real director.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cut parts of the book out.
Oh my God! If
And made it
Alfonso Cuarón had directed The Watchmen,
Oh, my
it would have been the
God.
greatest.
He would have
movie
been a
ever.
good choice.
If only David
made with
Cronenberg.
miniatures.
If only David Cronenberg had directed Harry Potter.
that would be fucking awesome.
Oh, Emma Watson.
Oh, yeah.
David's going to get you ready for it.
There would be spells that make your flesh turn into pustules that speak, and vines come out of your asshole and wrap around other people's
Long
throats.
live the new spell.
Harry, you get down here and you make that VCR spit out your aunt.
Oh, you have me there for a minute just trying to picture more. The Secret and Disgusting Garden by David Cronenberg. Okay, well, let's get back to Alan Moore.
Oh, right.
But
So-
we're going to get off the Watchmen.
Are we? Because I
Yeah.
just want to talk about, like, I've been watching the motion comic,
Oh, that's right. You want to talk about the motion
and
comic.
I
Okay.
do like it. I mean, and it's, as far as faithful adaptations go, you can't get more than, like, scanning the comic panels and making those animated.
5 hours of a motion comic.
Right, and for the most part, it's like everything everybody says. Like, well, it shouldn't be a one movie; it should be like several movies. A 12-part maxi series. So it's basically what it is. Each chapter is done. There's some limited animation, and if you like audiobooks, it's cool. Which I do. I love audiobooks.
Yeah, me too.
And if you don't,
Too much talking.
I mean,
Hold on.
I will
now
say-
you're Corey. Jesus Christ.
the one
just want somebody to show you a pretty picture.
the one consistent complaint between people who like it and don't like it is that it's one guy reading all the parts, and while he's good for most of them, when he reads the female parts, especially during the rape scene, he kind of sounds like Dr. Girlfriend.
Which in certain
Oh, Eddie, you know I wasn't implying that.
Yeah.
You get out of here, you bad boy.
And the other thing is, like, it's funny because maybe, like, Watchmen is cursed when it comes to score, because this movie, the motion comic, it's scored with just the strings, just music. But it's that same orchestra, the same strings, the very tough, reverent strings throughout the entire thing. And after a while, it's like, dude, you can change the tone some. It's kind of a happy moment. They don't change it at all, and so it makes it kind of
Hey,
weird.
dude, you're lucky they weren't playing Flock of Seagulls over
Oh, I
in
know.
the fucking movie.
I know. It's like you're damned if you do.
that was
damned
so
if you don't.
85. Well, here,
Well, wait a second.
actually, I saw the motion comic too.
But before we get into Colin has not really been given the opportunity to
That's
adequately
true.
preserve
That's true.
the pro
And
side
I'm
of
sorry
the
for
argument.
that, Colin.
So,
Please. Let's
over
hear-
here feeling slighted.
Let's get Collins. He came out of his way to come here and be with us tonight.
He lives a long way away.
He lives a long way away. He had to convince his wife that he wasn't out sleeping with hookers
This time.
this time. So
He had to hide all the
we don't
frying
get
pans.
hookers?
The night is
What the hell
still
am I doing
young,
here?
Colin.
you got here late. The hooker's already dead and outside behind the shed. Thanks a lot, Bo, by the way,
what?
for cleaning
Bring a
up.
hooker you don't want me to marry?
He just cleaned after. He just cleaned up after my dispatch.
Hey, I clean as I work, motherfucker. Okay?
Okay, all right. So let's hear it. Colin Smiley.
All
what
right,
did
I'm
you
going to
think
say
of
the most
Watchmen?
controversial thing ever.
Awesome!
And nobody jump in. Let him talk.
Yeah, let him have his chance in the sun. Here.
I liked this movie.
Bo is shaking.
Yeah. He's trying to manipulate. He's trying to mind control. I liked
trying to
the
keep
movie
himself
because
from
I
throttling
feel that. Well, this is kind of sad, but this is the best we're gonna get. Oh God! Let me finish.
Touche.
Don't ever represent me in court.
Your Honor.
Dude, I know it's life, but they're not putting you in the chair.
And I'm black too. I need all the help I can get.
Sure, he killed the husband, the wife, and their 2 little kids, but to be fair, Your Honor, they were home.
And in his way.
He had a knife. They were standing there. She kind of gave him a bitchy look.
I'm just saying, Your Honor, you do the math.
This is actually the same argument Colin uses with his wife. You're the best I'm ever gonna do. That's how much I love you, baby.
Hey, honey, we're in bed. What do you say?
Thank God you agreed to sleep with me. I'm sorry, Colin. Go ahead.
No, wait, please.
You go on, Jim.
No one interrupt. Let him talk.
Yeah. Thanks for not interrupting, guys.
The same treatment co-host got. Run the gauntlet.
Yeah, I want you to notice
Hi,
I
my
was
name's-
keeping quiet. When it
My,
was,
my name's Edgewise.
So go ahead.
Your Cutter's friend from ElfQuest?
Oh, jeez. Bo, Jesus Christ, man.
Glad somebody said.
okay, back to Wikipedia.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go put some ice on this. I'll be back.
I keep getting derailed.
Please, Colin.
I feel like the train in Unbreakable.
You have the conch.
And no one survived in this particular case.
Certainly not me. I was the conductor. I got thrown from the train.
All right, come on.
All right, let's hear it.
Defending the Watchmen.
Defending the Watchmen.
You're on the spot.
I understand what Zack Snyder was attempting to do. The fact that he didn't make it all the way across the finish line. You know, I mean, they said this was an unmakeable movie from the source. And I agree with the sentiment that when you have something that's a comic book, a fantastic graphic novel, you're not going to get an adequate translation of it. But you're going to get what I feel is a pretty dang good translation of it, getting rid of the stupid squid, which I never liked anyway.
I actually didn't mind that change at all.
I thought that was a pretty good. The only thing I didn't like was about that change was the fact that they sort of had to make Dr. Manhattan the bad guy there, whereas before it was sort of like, oh my God, we're being attacked by aliens. Let's all come together, kumbaya.
See, it didn't have to be a squid. It just needed to be an alien.
Yeah, it could have been an alien.
Unites everyone instead of makes like most of the world hate America more.
See, that's the one thing I thought, where it's like, hey, America, you guys created this monster.
Well, and
We
that's
hate you.
that's actually the
We'll
one thing I
unite
really
against
didn't
you.
like. It's because even though that sort of
You're supposed to be
works in Alan Moore's-
defending.
Yes, I know. No.
Dude, it totally should have been zombies from 28 Days Later.
Dude, that would have been awesome.
Suddenly, I've walked into the switchyard, and there are all these different tracks in front of me.
And Colin, understand that while you're in a room full of a lot of people who have very bad feelings about it, a lot of the listeners on the site loved the thing, and they're going to be hearing you, and they want you to defend it for them.
Yeah, and now
You're their
you're going to get
champion.
nothing but emails going, have Colin back on the show.
Yeah, we like him. He's a sycophant.
To which we will
He's a sycophantic
we will
lackey.
look down and whisper, no.
and I'll be out back getting lynched. It's okay. I love the hate mail. Just
Kill
send it
Claw!
on.
Kill Claw! Get him!
All these people who enjoyed it are 12, of course. But nonetheless,
But you know, I was 12 once.
I enjoyed this movie. I hear what you're saying. I did too, because I was able to separate this completely and
Well, yeah,
just
and that's
take
it.
as an
And
experience.
you can't have this Slavic devotion to the source material that says everything must be perfect. I mean, part of the problem with these translations of source material that's so revered as The Watchmen is in the comic community is that everyone's got their favorite bit, their part that they love. And when that's left out, or when some theme or overarching representation that you got out of the comic book that was part of your interpretation of the comic book wasn't represented to your high standard on the screen, I freaking hated this. This was the stupidest movie ever.
Okay, sorry. I just got to say, nowhere did I ever said that I was upset about not being faithful. I think it's too faithful, and I just think it's bad filmmaking. That's my problem with this movie. I think it's just a very badly made film.
I mean, I'm sure when I see this a second
that
time, I'll be more negative about it. But the first time, it is an experience. It's very Star Moon Drang. There's lots of pow, gee whiz. And I was like, there's a lot of ideas in this that, as unstructured as they might be, are interesting enough that I've heard a lot of discussions from John Q. Public about this, going, I've never seen a superhero movie like that before. I found it fascinating. I didn't know you could tell a superhero story like that. And that's what is good about this movie. We're all jaded as fuck because we know you can tell good superhero stories.
That's if anything, what I feel is the great failure of the movie, The Watchmen, is not that it is either it hews too close to the Slavic side of following it, or that it goes and transcended it. It's the fact that there's such there's let's face it. All right, the fact that we've all read the Watchmen graphic novel sort of puts us in the minority.
I'll give you that.
Sure. All right, and unfortunately, what Zack Snyder I think tried to do was make it more accessible, and unfortunately, given the results and reports I've gotten from friends of mine who haven't read the graphic novel, he failed in that respect.
Really?
I think so.
Unfortunately for Zack Snyder, the majority of the voices who do reviews have read it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
so
there are
he's
reviewers
damned
that
if he
haven't that didn't like
it's
it.
sort of like a damned if you do and damned if you don't.
It
right?
didn't, honestly,
I mean,
it almost
Confucius
is
say,
at that
"Man who
point.
walk in middle of the road get run over from both directions."
And this is why I think we're lacking on an opinion of someone who hasn't read the book but saw the
yeah.
movie just straight up.
Yeah, good job not going to see the movie, Greg.
A very good friend of mine did go see it, and he didn't like it because he's like, I'm really not sure what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was part of the problem. Is I think it was disjoint because Zack Snyder was like, oh, gotta grab this from the source material and go grab that from the source material.
I'm going to defend Zack Snyder here real quick, and I'm sorry.
Dawn of the Dead was awesome.
I've turned him.
Yeah.
This is complete role
Give
reversal,
me an
guys.
umbrella because Pig's going to be flying overhead real soon.
Hey, my feet are cold.
All right. In his defense,
I will fucking cut you, Claw. So
apparently, when he shot the movie, it ended up was like 5 hours. The original cut?
Yeah.
And so the disjointedness, any movie you cut like that is going to be disjointed.
Yeah, you have no.
Now I think that the 5-hour version is going to be awful too, but it would make it more disjointed.
Speak for yourself. I have like the extended super duper remixes of all the Lord of the Ring movies, and I love them.
Okay, Claw.
Actually, I like
hold
Lord
on.
of the Ring movies.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Claw.
so-
I'm just confused about one thing. Are you actually the same person as Kang the Conqueror and Doctor Doom? Because I've always really been unclear on that.
Yes. Rick is not a supervillain anymore, but he is composed of pure sound.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. I'm the murderous master of sound.
Which is
Okay.
why you're probably picking up a little bad feedback at this point.
I didn't know. I thought it was really cool. We had a celebrity of your level here.
Actually, if I can tell you a little story. Actually, it goes a little side to this. It has nothing to do with watching around.
Let me finish one thing though.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can I finish?
We were going to talk
Okay,
about
I'm
Jack
finished.
Kirby, okay?
That's actually where we were
God,
going.
Jack Kirby.
Go ahead. Finish your
Go
story.
ahead, Colin.
Smile when you say that, Smiley. Now, go and make your point.
I don't know if you know where you're at, Colin, but you genuflect when you say that name.
Do the Catholic cross first.
Come on, you got it.
Come on.
Crickets.
Oh yeah, just
Spectacles, testicles, watching Wally.
Do you have some holy water?
No, finish what you were going to fucking
I've got
say.
Guinness.
Finish what you're gonna
Okay,
say.
somebody finish their point.
I'm trying to.
You have the conch, Colin.
I have the conch. I finally have the conch again.
Yes.
Until I'm interrupted in 5 seconds.
Well, it's a hot potato conch, kind of. So
You got 5 seconds, and you've used up 3.
Oh, great.
And that's
I
two.
still fuck you. I still enjoyed the movie for what Zack Snyder was able to incorporate. The fact it was disjoint didn't really bother me that much because I actually had the background material of having read the book, not a slavish devotion to it. So maybe my liking of it is unique in the fact that I recognize that you can't do I've said this before, I'm one of the few people who likes Lynch's Dune. Probably one of the 5.
No,
there's
I
lots
love
of
it.
people who do.
Yeah, there actually are lots of people.
But that movie too was lambasted by both the fanboys and the general public alike. The general public's like, I don't get it, and the fanboys are like, you didn't have this part. Paul had kids.
Well, the movie does require either an adoration of David Lynch to the point that you don't really care about whether or not they stick to it or not, whatever the rest of it is. You're just watching it as a David Lynch movie, and it's good David Lynch movie.
I watched it as a movie where they took.
Go to see Dune. I got there late. Not late as in it started already, but I go into theater.
You helped your grandkids in.
and And this is the only movie that's ever happened in where I into the theater right before it's about to start, and the usher handed me a glossary.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and went, what the? And then the lights went out.
I know,
And I was like, oh, shit, I'm in trouble.
It's kind of like
I thought that was actually sabotaging it because I've watched the multiple versions. Like they had the David Lynch version, and they had the Alan Silvestri version where they like had drawings like flash, like motion comic drawings, like old Spider-Man.
Oh my God, animatics? Really?
They put animatics in it because and like they would keep using the same shots. It's like, oh look, a starship's landing on Kai-10. Oh look, it's landing on Arrakis. It's the same damn shot. And you're like,
Jesus.
Okay, one's a lush, beautiful world, and the other one's a fucking desert, and you've got a starship landing,
And the other's a
on TD
charcoal
Prime.
drawing.
Yeah, and
see if they had just let Mobius make his Dune. He was the original designer.
Yeah.
I know. It would have been beautiful and boring.
No,
yes, but
Am I
Because
wrong?
that's
I was
all.
Alejandro
to finish my point,
Jodorowsky's
my
Yeah,
point,
it
I
was
like
the- well,
Dune
same person, they were together.
for what he was able to select from the original text and bring into what I felt was a coherent film. And I got that same thing from Watchmen. It wasn't a slavish devotion to it, and it wasn't an extemporaneous existential.
You know what the Watchmen needed?
what did-
a shirtless Sting.
what
That
did
would have
the-
made it better.
I will
kill him.
Okay, question.
Sting could have been a shirtless blue with red hair.
What did the Slavs have to do with it?
They got enough problems going on.
All right, guys, we are literally going to go to the next part of this discussion past Watchmen.
Oh, Rick had a great
We've done
story he wanted to
over
tell.
an hour on the Watchmen alone, so.
All right.
Okay, we're moving to the next part, and I'm sure he could bring this story back into it.
Let
But
Rick tell a story for a 0.5.
all right, yes.
it's
Blue-
actually got nothing to do with Watchmen or Alan.
well, there you go. We'll come. You'll have time to talk.
So it's about Michael
Well,
Moorcock.
You
bring
can
it out.
segue to it later.
No,
We'll-
talk about my grandfather.
We'll bring it back for a Jack Kirby episode.
All right. The
And
Blue
Jack
Tattoo asks, look, we all know Moore is a genius, but is there anything he's done that isn't good at all or that you
Yes.
think is totally overrated? And yeah, of course there is. I don't care. I know people who are still raving about how good Lost Girls is, but I'm sorry. I did read the whole thing, and I thought it was boring as fuck.
Especially for porn.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do,
Wasn't Lost
Although
Girls a vampire film?
to be fair, everybody out there, he did co-write this with his betrothed, the woman
Yes,
that he
yes.
did eventually get married to. So.
So you're saying women can't write?
No, no, I'm saying that
they're not funny
making a comic book with your significant other is generally a really bad idea.
That's true because you can't really critique her. Like you critique it first, and then she'd get all whiny and crying, like you just trying to take this out of me. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So after your SO is like cried a bunch, and she's like, "Fine, what do you think of this?" And from that point on, you're just like, "Honey, it's great. It's awesome." Now, can I get that hand job I was asking?
Kind of like
I think I realize why strippers hate you so much. Anyway,
it's kind of like when Gail, what's her name, was writing Daredevil, and you're just like
Gail
wait,
Simone?
Yeah, Gail Simone, and there's all these moments in there. You're just like, wait. What just happened? I mean, you don't have to be told a woman's writing this to know a woman was writing it.
Actually,
at
to
that
be
point.
fair, Ann Senti wrote Daredevil for a while, and she
Yeah,
was actually
it
quite
wasn't-
good.
wasn't Gail
Actually, no. We had our Daredevil show 2 weeks ago, and she was not quite good. She was
I
better.
remember being
She was
good.
better than some, but she wrote like a whiny Daredevil.
we did Daredevil. Let's go on. Bad,
Yeah.
What's your bad
Alan Moore? What's
thing?
the bad? I said
Oh,
Lost Girls,
well,
which
I
I
was gonna
stick
say,
to.
Leon probably, I don't know how old the rest of you are in this room, but I know you remember the first time we realized that Alan Moore wasn't God and could do everything when the Spawn issue came out.
Oh,
He wrote an issue with Spawn.
What was that like? 11
Well, to be
or
fair,
something?
it was Spawn.
it was Spawn. I know.
Right,
No,
but
no,
you remember when it came out, we're like, oh yeah, now Spawn
Yeah,
might be good.
no.
You can't polish a turd, boy.
No. This was early in the run. There was a series of writers: Frank Miller, Alan Moore,
And they
Neil
all
Gaiman,
sucked.
Dave. No, they didn't.
and Dave
Actually,
said-
you're totally wrong. That was the only time in the history of that comic that it was fucking awesome. I read that comic for 10 issues after that because of how good those
Okay,
fucking issues
now
were.
see that-
And then I went, oh fuck,
Here's
this
where
is
I would
never gonna
go.
get
Where
good.
I would pull the board and go like, no, you're wrong.
But his Violator series was awful.
Those issues with those creators, they were better. I wouldn't say they were
Exactly.
awesome. They were just better than everything that had
I
come
mean,
before.
you got to
them.
remember, we're coming from Alan Moore looking at, Watchmen and Swamp
it was like
Thing.
fine.
Well, he was writing a silly superhero comic, and it stays a silly superhero comic, and it was a good
And
silly
be that as it
episode of a
may,
silly superhero
it was
comic.
the first time Alan Moore fell.
Right.
We had never seen him trip before, and that was the first time I was like, wow.
See, but even that, I wouldn't say that he fell. I just would say he failed to soar.
Well,
What's the difference?
see, the thing,
You don't understand the difference from failing to soar and like falling right on your face.
Yeah, there is a rather sizable difference between
that's
absolute
a pretty broad
suckitude
spectrum, as a
and
matter
the
of
best
fact.
shit there is in comics.
Was it that your
everything he's
expectations
done
for him
is-
were too high?
exactly.
Yeah.
Everything
That's
he's
exactly
done
it.
is the best shit of all the best shit, and then he did something that was kind of.
He has done quite a few things that are among the
It's
best
like,
things in
oh,
comics.
Alan,
but
you're
far
better
from-
than- you're
far
better
from
than this,
everything
Alan.
he's done is the greatest. I mean, have you looked at his Wikipedia entry and all the shit he's written? There's stuff in there you're like, I never heard of that, and there's a good reason.
Well,
to
there-
No. Well, let me tell you this. A lot of those things that are mentioned in there, things he did over in Britain for 2000 AD and Warrior Magazine.
great.
I read a lot of those.
Oh,
and
I
they
know.
are fucking amazing.
a lot of it is
Yeah.
great of that stuff because it's just not in print.
Like
is
his
the
Halo
problem.
Jones.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, and Bo Jeffrey's saga.
I just read the Batman annual he wrote with Clayface, and it wasn't very good.
Oh, I
I'm
love
sorry.
that.
Really, I thought it
Uh-huh.
was mediocre as hell. In fact, there's a backup story with a penguin by somebody else that I thought was much better.
Yeah, I gotta
So-
say, I don't like most of it. Oddly enough, I don't like most of his Batman stuff, with the exception of Killing Joke.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he really, he nailed the Joker. That's
He
the
fucked
paradigm.
the shit out of the Joker.
For hell
The
yeah.
thing is, but it's interesting though, is as good as that is, his Supermans are better than his Batmans. I think
Oh, I absolutely
Joker
agree.
porn?
Yeah, if you want to check out like like Alan Moore doing a DC Legend, check out For the Man Who Has Everything. It's one of the best Superman stories ever done.
Yeah.
And they made,
watch
they
the
made
Justice League episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they made a really good. They made a really good Justice League episode out of it, and they did not make it. In fact, it's probably the best Alan Moore adaptation that's ever been done.
I could agree with that.
Cyrus actually hooked me up for my birthday. Alan Moore, the stories of Alan Moore,
DC universe? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good
and
book.
it's got For the Man Who Had Everything,
Which is awesome.
and-
Oh,
yeah.
Cyrus told you to say that.
That wasn't a present. That was homework.
Oh yeah. See, no, that occurred to me. I was
Well,
like,
it
"Happy
also has-
birthday, get to work, bitch."
No.
It also has the Mojo
no.
doesn't
Birthday,
socialize in it.
Cyrus, you have a birthday this week?
Oh yeah,
I
Yeah.
do.
Great
I have a
story.
birthday in a few days.
You have a birthday. Do you have an Amazon wish list where people could?
What's that?
You know what, Cyrus? You have like a link to your wish list on your page where people could click on it and buy you stuff, but you don't have a button. None of you guys, Bo, you don't have
I
a
I don't
button.
have the
I have
button,
a
but it's a
button.
link that leads to the same
I have-
place
I have
your
a button.
does.
You know, Leon, I will, by God, get a button. And,
Get a
and
button.
now that we've gotten all of the other birthdays out of the way, you guys can save up till August, which is
my
my
birthday is
birthday.
not-
Hey,
out of the way.
wait. Yeah, we have
For me,
we have a
thank you.
special guest here. Hang on, it's Frank Miller. Hey, what? You have something to say, Frank? Hey, hang on. Go ahead. Here. Whores! You're all whores!
Now, see, I have to say,
Is someone upset because they can't do HTML?
I have to say that's not true because I don't give anything back.
And if we were whores, we would be written into one of Frank Miller's comics.
That's right. Oh, and it's the LEOG, and only Merv can save them.
But that being said, I would like to give a big thanks to the folks who have sent stuff over time. Like, we really appreciate. Honestly, you don't have to send anything.
don't.
It was more there. as
Good, because I'm not.
It sounds like a joke.
you paid to be here, so it's okay.
All right. Okay, back on topic. Least favorite Alan Moore. Does anybody have anything?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and. Oh, you want? Okay. The controversial one. I've said this before. From Hell. I'm sorry. I've tried several times and I can't get.
I
I
love
never
From Hell.
finished it. I just got bored.
I never finished it either. I just gave up at some
But I'm a
point.
big fan of Jack the Ripper, and I was like, this is a mediocre retelling
See,
of Jack the Ripper.
I disagree with
legend.
both of you.
To me, it's just too much. It's way more than I would ever want to know.
Yeah, it's the conspiracy theory fetishist, like, which is basically what all Ripperology is, and he takes all the Ripperology and gives you footnotes and all more
See-
than most people want to know. Now, myself, I am a Ripper fan, and I do like it, but
You're a Ripper emulator,
I do
actually.
understand there's definitely some stuff that has left me cold about From Hell.
Attention, nerds. When we say Ripper and Ripperology,
I'm not talking about the second lead singer of Judas Priest.
and it is not a Buffy reference either.
Or downloading music.
Or downloading music.
Or copying DVDs.
It's about the
Actually, I
Frank
think
Miller
that's
guy
right.
who killed whores.
You
You were written by Frank Miller, Bo?
No, but Jack the Ripper was.
Okay, well,
Right.
I disagree with both of you on From Hell. All of you on From Hell. I think it's genius. And one of the things that I like about it is, again, the way he tells the story. I love the fact that there are multiple stories going on so many different levels that the footnotes have their own story that goes along with the comic itself, and they feed off of each other.
The biggest thing that turns people off of Alan Moore, and a lot I've noticed, is that he wants to tell the story from every angle. He wants to throw a short story in the middle of it and written into text. He wants to throw a completely different type of story. And with what the League of Extremely Extraordinary Gentlemen has turned into the series is his excuse to just go fucking hog wild doing that stuff.
Actually, I've read the newest one. They sent me.
I have too.
Yeah,
which is actually a return back to the earlier
Cyrus
stuff.
and I have
The
both
1910?
read
Yeah.
which I thought was great.
No, it's a return back to the earlier style.
Well,
but the second
one
two
had
go too far into the whole I want to tell these other stories.
Well, see, I don't think
know.
that happened with the second volume.
I
The third
do.
volume, I think
I like the second volume. I have not read the Black
The
Dossier.
first 20 pages of the second volume have almost nothing to do with anything else that happens in
Oh,
the
I
rest
think
of the
they
book. They're so unnecessary other than this thing that feels fetishistic.
A little bit. I mean, I can understand bringing in John Carter, and by the way, I hated the art doing their rendition of John Carter. But bringing in Gulliver of Mars. I mean,
If you're going to do that, you're going to do them all. I mean, that's the way he does things. But I'm interested to hear. Like 1910, I would have thought would have been very difficult to read without reading the Black Dossier, because so much in 1910 feeds off of what he talks about.
No, I definitely was lost, and then I reread it again and did a little research. And was
Right.
like, oh, okay.
I mean, you're like, who are these people?
No,
But
the Black
I find
Dossier is a big mess of stuff with just a little bit on either side of it.
I
you
also
know.
think that part of it is that's when he started again having problems with DC at that point, and I think it's kind of like his "fuck you."
Well, and not only that, but I mean, from Black Dossier on, he is free. He is totally free from DC and from having to do anything.
Well,
with
1910,
them at
not
all.
Black Dossier.
Yeah,
but-
Right.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So
Which actually, there's a question that leads into Black Dossier specifically, so I'll just read that real quick. Wally Whiplash, good name, asks, what did you guys think of the 3D in the Black Dossier? And if it's at all possible for a follow-up, how do you feel about this being done in general in comics, if ever?
I loved it in Black Dossier.
I personally find that the whole pull out the glasses thing
I
annoying
do.
because my instinct as a comic buyer is don't do anything to damage the book.
I agree with you on that, and most of the time it doesn't work. Most of the time it's a real gimmick. But
yeah.
more in Black Dossier, he actually tells a story in the 3D in the mirrors,
I agree.
and so he uses it very creatively. You know,
Part 4 of the League of Part 4 of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen will actually have a holofoil cover.
But see, the thing is, but most of the time, like I just read the Johns Donner Superman, their first one they did.
Yeah. What was it?
Man of Tomorrow.
Not Man of Tomorrow.
No. Last Son of Krypton.
Yeah,
Last Son of
Son
Krypton.
Excellent.
And it was good.
I liked
wasn't
it a lot.
excellent. I thought it was good.
Although I like the the follow-up thing story. That,
I thought it was
the new
good.
Krypton
the new
story?
Krypton better. So,
But
Well, the new Krypton that's Alex Robinson.
Yeah.
the 3D in it was like okay.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
3D in a comic is usually kind of a throwaway.
It's a gimmick.
yeah.
And that was part of my problem with it. But 3D in general, you know, it's a gimmick.
If you're using it as I think you make a great point, which is if you're using it to serve the story, awesome. If you're just using it to like, ooh, look, we're 3D, then cut it out.
Especially, especially if it's something you could do without the 3D, then it's just extra money they have to fork over.
We're gonna move away from Alan Moore for just a second here, so that Jason has something to say.
Really?
Mizuko,
Moore.
who I've been kinder to than I ever thought I would have early on in our
Mizuko?
the guy who I got into a fight with on the League Lounge at one point early
he
on.
must have sent you a present.
Huh?
He sent you something,
No,
right?
no,
He bought you.
No, he didn't. He just
You can be
we
bribed.
came to an agreement. He was
sent
like,
you a
okay,
fleshlight,
apologize to each other, and all is well.
Hey, man.
He has a habit of like saying things that are inflammatory without
Real dull.
meaning to, like phrasing
so
stuff
he's a
in a
troll?
way. No, because he'll come around and go, okay, maybe I said that wrong, and follow it up and end up being cool.
Honestly,
Wait.
on Spill so
Are we
far,
talking about Bo?
I mean, we've been around for 2 years, and we
because I
only
always
have about
bag my
2
shit
or
up.
3 trolls.
I know. In fact, most of the trolls we have, I'm almost certain are other members who are just bored and fucking around for a weekend. Like Mizuko. What's the one now? The Mycenia 2,
Well,
which has been here
Lament is the
today.
name.
Oh,
of
yeah,
it.
Lament. Lament is from France. Ha ha!
Except not really. I've called him out on it several times.
Do they
He
eat
finally
poo
admitted
in
it.
France? chance?
Any trolls that we have, Bo has slain them and mounted their heads at the opening of the league lounge.
He is not the guy you want to fuck
Okay, then,
with.
yeah,
in
like,
any
like, like,
form.
Wait, so
Bo
is he
completely
French and then
decimated
he
Dr.
speaks
Pepe
Pepe Le Pew
and now
French?
Dr. Deathfink is one of my best friends on the
Yeah,
side.
I know.
Yeah, no,
It happens that way
Deathfink,
sometimes.
for the record, everybody out there, Deathfink and I get along fine. He comes to my FAQs pretty consistently and asks me questions, and we trade back and forth.
Here's the thing.
No, good. He's quite a good
Really
man.
exceptionally smart people, which are often attracted to the league lounge, tend to have trouble sometimes expressing themselves accurately in social situations. That includes sometimes being in a heated conversation online.
I've never seen
That's
that with
because
geeks
they're all
before.
12.
I'm just
What are
saying.
you talking about?
I'm just saying we ended up being friends with a lot of these guys that started off with animosity.
But,
So
only people at monster truck rallies get involved in these flame wars that you speak of.
no, they talk with
The
their
NASCAR discussion boards, they're aflame constantly.
Well, we can
All right,
settle
I'm
this
gonna
right
say
now.
a flame war that'll
We
never
can
be that everyone on the board's not going to get.
Well, the truckers had
Emacs
the-
versus VI.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Truck-
We
truck-
can settle
truckers
this
had the
right
first
now. Though.
internet.
Greg,
Sadly,
how
I
did
gotta
they
know.
handle it at NASCAR races? No, I don't know. He doesn't watch NASCAR. I don't know.
Truckers had the first
do
internet,
they-
which was CB radios. You know, Breaker 19, letter to the editor. I have a problem with what you wrote about Spider-Man last week. Come on back.
When you're at a basketball game and two guys are disagreeing about the works of Kierkegaard, how do they settle?
Actually, to be
One
fair,
will punch the other.
as a big sports fan, one of my
You're a sports fan?
I'm a huge
What
fan.
the
You're a
fuck do you
fucking
Where do you find the time to watch sports, Rick Claw?
Converted in others.
I'm a
That's
huge.
about baseball.
I love baseball.
I don't get it, man.
I don't either.
Yeah, baseball
that's
is
like the nerd
is-
sport.
Yeah,
I
that's
want
the
to hear his
geekiest of all
point, though,
sports.
because I've never heard you, like, this is like, you know,
I mean,
finding out your girlfriend is a dick. Come on, tell me.
If Ken Burns has done a documentary about
the
your
crying
sport of
game.
choice, it's not that mask one. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, that boxing thing he did.
Anybody ever seen Burns throw a
Totally,
baseball?
Those guys wait, did they do a boxing documentary? Really?
Very good one too.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
Ken Burns is a Jeff Loeb.
What was the
of
fucking
documentary.
question?
Ken Burns is out of work now.
Go, let's hear it. Come on.
What?
Well, you had a point you were making, and I cut you off. You said you go to baseball, and
Oh no, I love sports. And what my point was is that I have.
Great! Shut the fuck up, Rick.
Go ahead.
you had your 5 seconds.
Go with the sports, please.
What did Mizuko ask?
No, I want to hear Rick's first, and then we'll get to Mizuka.
Look, he's
Yeah,
getting
there's several
derailed.
writers-
Wait.
There are several writers I know that I'm good friends with that will watch sports together, and during the game we'll discuss literary type issues. We'll also talk geek things, and all the time we would have a discussion, let's say, about Watchmen while we're watching a baseball game.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. They're not
I
things
thought you
that-
said literary things. No, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
Well, you know, there was a
they were
Kierkegaard.
debating the merits of Silver Age comics versus the comics of today.
How do you,
I've had that talk.
how do you
I
how do you
totally
pronounce
get it now.
Soren anyway?
I get it. I mean, what you're basically saying is because nothing happens in baseball, you can do other shit
Yeah.
while it's going on.
That's
makes
what I
sense.
was gonna say. I mean, I like baseball too, but I'm mainly a basketball
Really?
guy.
Do you like
And see-
baseball
and
just
see,
because
I'm
you
more
feel
of a
like you're
football
supposed
fan,
to
so
like
that's-
it? Or
I do love football.
No,
Yeah, I got you.
baseball
I got you.
baseball is very Kierkegaardian because it involves the will, and it's really boring, and then you die alone.
All right.
Wait, no,
Okay.
I'm actually more of a fan of Jim Cotta.
Here's the thing. Okay, the thing about baseball is the only sport that has natural breaks that are timed.
That's right.
Okay, in between the innings.
Yeah, the seventh inning stretch.
No, you have, because I'm a real geek, I know there's 2.5 minutes between every inning. When they go to the commercial, you have those 2.5 minutes. Every game has the same ones.
Which surprises me because you would think most people would get up and run.
Okay, kids.
And,
Whoa!
and one more thing, baseball also it lends itself. It's the only sport that is open to any possibility. There are no boundaries in baseball. There's no time. That's true. Okay, and there's no dimensions on the field. The only dimensions are the outfield wall, which is the
Sight,
artificial.
sound, and mind.
Kids,
Football-
And now we
football,
have
basketball
Nietzsche
have
in
to-
football.
Kids,
it's very
as
two-dimensional.
Kids, as long as you have your computer out, I want you to go to YouTube and you enter in baseball versus football by George Carlin.
Right.
All right, we're done with this. Next question.
Move on. Mizuko asks, it's not really Alan Moore, but this is a very urgent comic book question. You already talked about runs that nailed a certain hero or graphic novels in which a hero has an incredible moment. So which comic book nailed a certain villain? What are the great villain moments?
I think I already mentioned and you backed that up in very graphic terms, that Alan Moore's Joker in Killing Joke. I mean, it
defined
it
him.
fucked that character through the wall. That was exactly what you said, because it took all of the kind of psychoticness that Frank Miller had brought to the table, and then it combined that with the jokey woohoo ha ha from the old like Bill Finger Joker, and combined them into this. Oh, you're laughing and killing at the same time, and oh fucking my god!
I love the end on it. Grant brought this up. Like at the end, like when the Joker tells a joke, and him and Batman both like Batman has to laugh at it too. Like that's pretty good. Okay, now bam, off the jail.
But seriously, I fucked you up.
Yeah, that was awesome. You know now I gotta break. You know I gotta break your tibula now, right? Okay.
There are others. I mean, Miller's Bullseye.
Yes,
He's running Daredevil.
that's true.
The character was around
Bullseye
before
was
that.
like a 5th tier character until Miller turned him into
Oh yeah,
Daredevil's
if that.
number 1.
Jason, you're dying to say something. He's hovering around the mic. Like,
Honestly, and this is something I'm really surprised to say, is something that I've come to recently. Bendis's Norman Osborn, a guy who should be fucking dead, but my God, he writes him so good. Where he's I know everyone looks at me like,
Yes, you like you got 4 fucking heads.
I'm sorry,
hey,
dude.
Bo, do you still have some room in the whore pit out
I
back?
am about to go get a railroad tie and beat you to death.
no. Bendis's
run you out
treatment
of town on a rail.
of Norman Osborn, and it's particularly in Dark Avengers, and it's a guy who, by all means, should not be in a fucking comic book these days, except in flashbacks.
No, he shouldn't be Norman Osborn, because it's not fucking Norman Osborn.
Well, he's still crazy, brilliant industrialist, but in Dark Avengers recently, he's talking in the new issue that's coming out pretty soon. In Dark Avengers 3, he's talking to the Sentry, going, "Yeah, you know what? I've got some problems too, but you can overcome it." Yeah. No, I'm crazy.
He hasn't overcome it.
Speaking of evil industrialists and like really nailing a character, I think, and this is 2-tier. First, there was John Byrne who was finally brought up the idea of, instead of making Lex Luthor just like a mad genius, let's make him like this really big shot corporate raider executive type as well. And then Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and the guys behind the animated series
Clancy Brown.
at Superman the animated stories, and having Clancy Brown, boy, the animated version of Lex Luthor, as far as I'm concerned, is the best version of Lex Luthor that has ever occurred. He's so chilling and cool.
No, you're absolutely right. I
agree
actually
with that.
never really thought his character was all that interesting until the animated version.
I just
of him,
want to know
so.
why all the big time bad guys gotta be these industrialists.
Well, it is
These
interesting how
captains
like
of industry.
Because you got to have money to be a good
how many-
guy.
But I mean, hey, Bruce Wayne's
No,
a,
but this was all from
well,
like the 80s and the 60s.
Bruce Wayne's a captain of industry. So
It
so
goes
is
on
Ted,
both
so
sides.
Ted Core, Tony Stark. But if you really want the like DNA of it, when comic book heroes first started, they came out in the 30s, and guess who their villains were? Evil corporate barons.
Yeah,
because
I could
it was during
probably,
the fucking depression.
I could probably
Paul
afford to be a superhero supervillain, but I'd have to stop collecting DVDs and comics. And come on, let's face it, that's
that's never going to happen.
So what you're saying is the existence of DVDs and comics is keeping the world safe.
maybe so.
It is funny how
And,
Watchmen is like the
and
first
those
superhero movie in a
corporations
long
that
time.
produce those are the hero now. We've gone full circle.
It's the first superhero movie in a long time didn't have like a corporate takeover as part of the plot line.
Watchmen, that is, right?
Yeah, Watchmen. Yeah, it was the
Oh,
first
but
one.
back to Norman Osborn, by the way, I will fight you, and your fight is coming, Jason. Just wait for it. You won't see it, but it'll be there. Sneaking up from behind. And I never thought I would say this, okay, because I didn't even like the show or what they did when it aired, but I hope Marvel does pull a Saint Elsewhere, okay? That's all I'm saying. Pull out your Wikipedia, boys and girls, because it's time to pretend the last 5 years has been a dream.
Oh my god! Come on, that's not bad.
Patrick Duffy.
Yeah. You mean he's not dead?
I'm going to go old school with my answer, and it's going to be way back when John Byrne was doing Fantastic Four, when they removed Doctor Doom as the dictator of Latveria, and suddenly the Fantastic Four found out, like, wow, when this guy was here, he was sort of Mussolini, where he ran things tightly, and the peasants, they actually loved him. It's like, why'd you take him away? He got shit working here. I mean, yeah, he was Saddam Hussein, but everything works.
Hey, the trains ran on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Always the excuse. It's like The Soviet Union killed more people than every war in the 20th century combined. But the trains ran on time.
Well, another one. Bird's actually been involved with several of these. Magneto, when he was with Claremont. And
Yeah.
Byrne.
Yeah.
When they did when they did the X-Men.
When they made it make like the Malcolm X. Although I always said like him saying like, look, I'm not evil. I just have a different point of view. But it's like, yeah, dude. But the name of your posse,
I know.
is the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
I hate to bring up your own business cards, but
It's funny. I saw Stan Lee actually give a speech one time at campus, and someone stood up and asked the question, did you purposely intend to make Xavier, Malcolm, Martin Luther King, and Magneto into Malcolm X? And he pauses for a while, bewildered, because he's kind of weird. On his own. and then he goes,
Wait, Stan Lee's weird?
"You're damn right I did," and everyone just cheered. But
I love Martin X.
it was just so hilarious.
well, when you read a lot of that early Stan Lee Marvel stuff, I mean, he really considered himself like active in political and social affairs. There's so much stuff.
Well, and
in there
compared to
for the
everybody else, he
time.
was.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You look at DC, and I mean, you don't see a black person until 1979.
yeah.
And that was like, what, Black Lightning or whatever?
And it was Black Manta, and he was a villain. You do the math.
He was the Jason F of the Justice League. It's like, oh, sit down. You'll get to fight someone next week, maybe.
but for now, we really need you on the monitors. Because Colonel Wilcox might call any second now.
or we need to send you in first.
He's our own red shirt.
Well, Miley Zorel, who we always have to answer
Our
questions
favorite
by, asked a good question, which said, if you were to cast the League now, which is Alan Moore's League, based on today's book-bound icons, who would be in it? And keep in mind they have to be novel characters, like characters in books, not those based on other media like TV and movies.
See, I was going to go with authors.
Man, this was a really hard one because you had to think of it because most of the original League is they're pulp heroes, and we don't really have pulp heroes anymore because the people that would have written those they're writing TV and
Or comics.
or comics or
And
bad
they aren't
movies.
public domain.
I would say, I mean, the two people I thought of when I was running it through my head, if you wanted to have a Mina character, Clarice Starling.
Oh,
Good
cool.
one.
Yeah, Clarice Starling's good.
Really awesome. And my
Well,
second
Clarice
one
before Hannibal.
for the
Actually-
Clarice, but before, and if you wanted to have a kind of Alan Quartermain, do Mark Bolan the executioner.
Ooh,
But
That's good.
contemporary, like in his 60s or 70s.
Okay, Magnum PI.
Fuck
yeah.
No TV, no movies.
I meant Mac Bolan. Yeah, Mac
also-
Bolan, the executioner.
Actually, and I know I would put Snape in there as your dark
Oh
character.
no, I was gonna say Harry Potter.
Okay.
No, Harry's too young.
No.
But
Here it
Severus
is.
Snape is
He's
the
too-
Nemo.
Here it is.
No. I defend Grant with Harry Potter as opposed to Snape.
He's
Because it was-
one of the most notable characters of.
Snape is too powerful of a wizard. It would unbalance your league. You could have Clarice and Snape.
You can have Harry.
A grown-up Harry Potter.
Yeah, in
I
his
think that
Harry
could be
in his
totally
50s,
Yeah.
disillusioned,
No. A
nothing
kid
ever.
Harry Potter who has some spells but not a lot.
But he wouldn't-
So the league's not too powerful.
But the league wouldn't put a kid in.
That would-
That's
okay,
why.
Here we go.
He could if he could do a Cruciatus
Who
first.
you got, Jason?
Willy Wonka.
Actually,
I'm serious.
Whoa.
No.
As far as like the Professor Moriarty type or the guy that's at the head of the organization,
Yeah.
I think that could totally
No,
fucking
seriously.
Hey,
The happy hooker.
And he's got
work.
minions.
the Gene Hackman Willy Wonka guy.
Yes.
Before anybody
could I?
else.
No,
Gene Wilder.
Excuse me, Gene.
No, Gene Hackman.
Although
because
Gene
Hackman
Hackman
great
should
Willy
play
Wonka.
him in the movie that is made.
Could I suggest Jack/Tyler Durden? Or is it because of his fatality at the end that wouldn't work?
I like that.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that
but
too.
how would he contribute to the league?
Dude,
Dude,
Even
he's
though
a
even though
motivator.
it
He's a
was a
people
book-
person. He gets people going, and it's,
Even though it was a book
And
that
they'd all be
thought of so
clean.
much more as a movie, really.
Here we go.
generally
No,
speaking.
I got it. Ramona Quimby.
From what? I don't know what that
Ramona
is.
Quimby.
Ramona.
Beverly Cleary.
I never read those. So.
well, Cyrus, do you have anyone that you would put in there?
I said Happy Hooker.
I think as far as
O would be fine.
I just had another one
Xavier Hollander.
for the and I can't remember the name, but for the Mr. Hyde character, the scientist who William Hurt played in Altered States.
Nice.
And he can go through like different stages,
And that
of
is based on a
evolution.
book.
Yes,
Altered States.
Yes, it is.
I'd kind of like that vampire from Twilight if we could get him in there too.
And
Or maybe-
Grant's not allowed to talk anymore.
Or maybe Lestat.
I would go
All right, Padawan. No,
That's what
Lewis.
shit.
He's more tortured.
What's
I'd
up,
say-
Fish?
I'd say the lead character from Shark Teeth, because that guy, not a
Which I
werewolf.
still have not read yet, and I know I'm supposed to.
Damn it!
Werewolf.
I mean, honestly, I was gonna like buy that for you before coming over here,
Uh.
but wanted me to stop and get cola.
Well-
so that I didn't have enough time.
Don't use me as an excuse, motherfucker.
I'll use anybody.
Thanks a lot, Bo, for screwing up my birthday present.
But yeah, the just because he's not quite a werewolf, but the ability to turn into a dog whenever he wants and being a lawyer makes him a perfect character.
The Shaggy DA, is that who you're after?
I think we'd
Yeah,
have to
but
have.
by the way, you instead of bringing us cola, you brought us Pepsi Max, so you really didn't accomplish any of
I
your
bought an
needs.
8-pack of Coca-Cola.
Jason, what are you saying?
I was going to say we'd have to have maybe like Palmer Eldritch or some weird dude from a Philip K. Dick novel. As
Yeah,
one of the
no,
leads.
I agree.
No,
yeah.
you got to have a guy who's hunting a guy who turns out to be himself.
They're
K.
not
Dick wrote every
all
goddamn
like
thing he
that.
ever wrote.
Yeah, how
I got
many
it.
books
Rick
have
Decker.
you read by
It's Rick
Philip K.
Decker.
Dick?
Well, everyone they make a movie
How
about.
many books?
Everyone they make
How
all
many
8 they've made a
books
movie
have
about
you
have been
read?
about a guy who's hunting himself.
That's not true.
One last.
Dude, that's Dick's
one last
shtick.
bit. Billy Pilgrim from
Billy Pilgrim.
Slaughterhouse 5.
That would be a good one. Or whatever the guy's name was from Sirens of Titan.
I still haven't read Science of Night.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Well,
comic.
isn't the league's going to be? He's doing 68, and then he's going to be in 98.
Yeah.
So we'll see a contemporary
We'll see.
league.
Anyway, yes, you will.
Yeah.
You will find out, Miley, because that would be our contemporary.
Yeah, which
Our
will
contemporary.
still assumably have Mina Harker
Well,
and
yeah,
Alan Quartermain
she's
in it,
immortal.
because they what was the thing that
She
you
was
have
all
to
bitey.
read all the stuff in the middle of the black dossier.
Well,
to
and if you
figure
had
out,
read,
but-
and if you've read Haggard's books, which is where
C.
Alan
C.
Quartermain
Ryder
comes from,
C. Ryder Haggard created Alan Quartermain.
right? The
Yeah,
book
she's
She,
all-
who's immortal, and
right
that deals with that.
Okay, that's what I was trying to remember what it
Yeah.
was. But yes, those two characters are now immortal and in
Oh,
fact
shit.
de-aged.
The
in the
Alan
books.
Quartermain character. No. It'll be Dirk from the guy who wrote Sahara and Raising the Tide.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Come on, you
I want to say
yeah.
Diggler, but that's the guy from Boogie Nights. But
No,
he'd be
Matthew
good.
McConaughey.
All I can think of
Hey.
Matthew McConaughey, and it's
Clive
like,
Cussler.
no.
Yeah,
I
Clive Cussler.
think we've covered it. I think we need to
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Moving on.
Tiny Q
Moving right
Cards
along.
says, and it's a longer question, but they praise us heavily, so we'll just
Yeah,
read
we got
it.
we
anyway.
got
They're praising heavily, so
And
you'll
that's
answer
how
their
you
question.
get your question answered on LEOG.
Yes.
Says,
A
first
little
I'd-
tickling of the balls.
First, I'd like to say thanks for your funny as hell insights into comic books.
You're welcome,
shucks.
and I speak for myself.
I started listening to LEOG out of curiosity a while ago, and the next thing I know, I'm reminding my friends to listen to it every week. Good job. You guys have rekindled my love of comics and have even got my boyfriend back into them as well. Double points for having a vagina here.
Yeah.
Assuming this is actually, it's not clear. I guess it could be a dude.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Come on.
Of course, that being
All
said,
right, if you're a dude who catches, that's
I
fine.
was gonna say I don't know a lot of gay guys who read comic books, but that's neither here
I've
nor
known a lot of
there.
gay guys.
I've known
Did
a
you?
lot of
Okay,
gay.
all right,
I know a
fair
lot of
enough.
gay guys. There are a lot of gay guys out there who write
And
comic
they all
books.
read X-Men.
Do they all read X-Men?
They all read
Yes,
X-Men.
they love
Really?
X-Men.
Okay.
You guys know this?
They hang out at the gay comic book store.
Yeah, the guy who wrote the
There are things you don't know about.
I'm sorry, we're actually not homophobic.
the guy who
my
just-
youngest
Sorry.
brother.
All right.
the guy who just wrote the
Big comic fan.
the book that just came out on the Batman mangas. He's gay.
Oh, Chip
Okay.
Kid.
Yeah,
Chip Kid?
Chip Kid. Yeah,
So
yeah.
back
Yeah.
to Tiny Q Cards. It says, anyway, thank you, LEOG. You guys are the biggest damn heroes on Spill, the sparkliest vampires in the forest. Now that I'm sure I have Cyrus's attention, which oh, I guess I didn't read that before. Okay. I just wanted to ask
Little
a
verbal
question.
filleting going on.
What do you guys think makes Alan Moore's comics stand out to the point mainstream media has even declared Watchmen one of the greatest novels in the last century? Personally, I think it's because he structures his plots more like novels, meaning I've noticed he tends to have additional details and extra storylines within the main tale. Comics like Watchmen and V for Vendetta tend to have character dramas that aren't necessary to the main story, but add to its tone and create a more realistic universe that has a history to it.
Well, let me tell you something about Alan Moore's process that I don't think a lot of people do. Is like when he's first coming up with the concept for the story, he gets out a book and just scribbles down stream of consciousness, everything that pops in his mind based around those concepts, based around that, fill a notebook with all these things. And so it gives him something to refer back to. So like you read one of his stories, like, wow, he totally came full circle back around this idea. It's like, yeah, because he wrote all this shit down ahead of time. Nobody else puts in the kind of work that he does.
I think that's it. And I saw some other questions on this particular bucket of questions that we got for this. Basically asking why Alan Moore likes comic books so much, and I think that he's actually said, he saw a very underutilized form that could do great things, and that's why you're absolutely nail on the head, perfect. He takes concepts that most people would apply to novels, which would have made him a lot more money. Probably
probably wouldn't.
Not really.
No.
Well, yeah, you're true, but there was no way he would have known that he would have made more money doing comic books than he would at novels when he was first starting out.
Clearly not an issue for him.
Yeah,
I think he's 49% mad, 51% genius.
But
that's what it is.
Whatever the fact, he is he's taking writing techniques
with a 2% margin for error.
Yeah, he's taking writing techniques that are usually reserved for novelists, and he's putting in the work. Because he has just decided, more or less. I know he is writing a novel at this point, but more or less,
he's already written a novel.
He's just a comic book artist or a comic book writer, and that's what he does. And he takes that energy and applies it to the form in a way that most people just don't.
I do want to be really clear here about this, because I've gotten some people who've responded to times we've kind of poked a little fun at Alan Moore being crazy or looking like a homeless guy and taking it to mean that he's part of the League of Enemies,
No, not at
and
all.
that is so not
That's
true.
the opposite.
I hold him in higher regard than I do almost anyone else who works in comics. Even though I don't love everything he does, he has done stuff that's unlike anything else that's been done in comics, and he has set the tone for the rest of the industry numerous times.
He's the only creator that I buy everything he does.
And a lot of the batshit crazy stuff that you're like, oh, he worships a snake god, and he casts spells and all that. I think there is a certain degree of Alan just taking the piss with that. I
could be.
really do.
Have you guys... Oh, go ahead, Grant.
Even the name of this podcast is an homage to him.
Yeah.
We love this guy.
Have you guys ever, anyone
Although I was
listening...
admittedly really drunk when I thought of it.
Yeah. Has anyone listening or anyone in the room ever seen a movie from the 70s, a British horror film called Raw Meat, also called Deathline?
No, Jason, you're the only one in this room.
Okay.
I was going to say maybe,
In fact, it may not even exist.
No, it's real.
You dreamed
and
it.
Alan Moore is the villain in it.
No
Google
shit.
it. Google it. No,
for real.
No, not for real.
Oh, okay. He just
But
looks like him.
it's a guy that looks like a flesh-eating Captain Caveman. And I swear to God, I watched it for the first time, and I was like, it's Alan Moore! Oh, my God! And everyone I was watching it with was like, who the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, dude, it's Alan Moore, and he's
Because
eating
Alan
people.
Moore's like,
And that's
15.
the best thing about The Watchmen being out, because now you don't have to do that.
That's right.
Well, Alan Moore, okay, let's go under the supposition that he is fucking batshit crazy. So we're a lot of fucking genius
so
artists.
what?
As long as they keep turning out this great, amazing, insightful
what's
work.
this religion thing he believes in with the snake
Who
god?
cares?
Yeah,
He believes
some
in
people
what-
say like, he has said to people that, I worship a pre-Roman British snake god. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it's
Okay,
just
that's
Is
pretty
it
fucking
just-
crazy because
wait, is
everybody
it
knows.
Ouroboros?
Everybody knows that God is an invisible man in the sky. He will grant you any of your wishes if you just ask him.
And
that seems
if you,
totally
even if you nail him to a tree, he will come back.
No,
years
it's the
later.
flying. It's the flying
He's
spaghetti
a zombie.
monster.
God's
And
like
the
grants
snake
all
will
our
come
wishes.
back if you nail
God's
it to a
like,
tree.
Wait a
fuck
minute.
your sins, I'm out of here.
I do want to touch
Isn't
one
it
of the things-
Ouroboros, the snake that eats it?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
the
that's
what it is.
horse.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the idea, I think that you were talking about him using novel techniques in writing his comics. The difference between Alan Moore and creators that came before him is not that he approached it using techniques, that he approached it like a novel.
Yeah.
He didn't think of it as a story. He said, I can do anything that I can do in a novel, I can do in a comic. And so he removed that barrier, that invisible wall that existed.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And also he deals with a lot more mature subjects in his comics that people didn't deal with. I mean, now it's commonplace. But if he hadn't written things like Swamp Thing, which was his first big book in the United States,
that
Well,
was.
we talk about Watchmen and we talk about Dark Knight a lot about as far as kicking down doors, but really Swamp Thing was the thing that really changed the paradigm
In America. In America.
Well, in America, like there was no
America,
such
yeah.
thing as reinventing characters from their origin until Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And then from Swamp Thing to Miracle Man.
Because
And
I mean, the
Adrian
big thing-
Actually,
Barbeau
you
had
wrote
a
Miracle Man
great
first.
rack.
Well, I know. I'm saying what came over here.
Yeah.
No, I know he wrote
Miracle Man was first, and
Well,
I'm saying
that-
that's the
you know.
big point the finger, the one that changed it, and more people would know that if Todd McFarlane wasn't such a giant dickhead.
All right, enough of
Okay.
shitting
But
on
see,
Tom
Hey
McFarlane.
man, until he fucking does it, changes it.
Hey, man.
I mean, I don't care what else he does. He can do anything
Whoa,
else.
whoa, we're
he does.
segueing.
But until he actually goes, he's the one guy keeping those, the only guy keeping those books from coming back into print. Fuck him. Okay, and I will continue to say it until he, don't buy fucking Spawn.
Yeah,
don't buy his stuff.
I gotta say a big old John Stewart style fuck you to him too.
Yeah, no, that's- he's doing it
if
to be
if he does
petty.
it, you know.
Hey, Todd's my friend.
I don't care. He's doing it to be. He's doing it to be petty, and that's ridiculous.
I hate him simply because he's Canadian.
You know why? You know why I really hate him? Because he used to play baseball.
I was gonna say he's a
Fuck
huge
that
sports
guy.
fan.
Yeah, no,
That's why he bought one of Mark McGuire's steroid
did.
balls.
Yes, he did.
He bought a
whoa, no!
the ball that they played with. The ball that they played with.
A steroid ball must be really tiny, I imagine.
Okay, you guys are letting out your
Yeah,
inner
balls
sports, you
that
guys
he
even
played
know
with. Of
that
course
stuff.
he played with them. What guy doesn't?
Oh God, make it stop.
But fuck him seriously.
And if I ever see him, I will butt fuck him seriously. You can believe
How
it.
do you feel about the fact that the series is actually called Marvel Man, but they changed it to Miracle Man
I don't
because
care.
they would get sued by Marvel Comics?
Yeah, I don't care about that part.
That's a minor.
That
actually
doesn't make
wasn't-
any effect on
yeah,
anything.
Actually,
come on.
It has nothing to do with anything. No. We're going to the next question. Everybody shut up. I'm done with this subject. But, we're going back to Alan Moore, and because we've really only discussed some of the big, more noticeable works of Alan Moore. And I read recently Top 10, and Brendan B.S.
I love Top 10.
talk about Top 10. I feel like it's extremely underrated, and boy, is he right. I didn't even
absolutely.
realize it was Alan Moore.
Oh, don't.
And it's such a neat little world where everyone has superpowers.
Top 10 is it's so incredibly great, and a lot of people, like I noticed on the message board, were saying, why do you think Alan Moore chose comic books? And Top 10 and Tom Strong are great answers, and the answer is because he really fucking loves comic books. I mean, and what he does in Top 10 and Tom Strong is he takes these old tropes and makes them almost banal, as far as Top 10's the idea that, it's a cop story, and all the cops are superpowered, but everybody in the town that they're living
It's
has
Hill Street
superpower.
Blues where everybody has a superpower.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's
Yeah.
and Leona Hardy, screw you for getting me into that in Top 10. You're like, here, have one issue of Top 10. And I'm like, oh, fuck you, now I'm addicted.
The first taste is free.
You know what's really interesting about when that came out, the same month, that was when Powers came out too.
Was it?
Yeah, they were right real close to one another the same month. They were within months of each other.
I didn't know that.
Then Bendis did Powers, and you have these two comics that are almost identical in ideas.
Yeah.
But
Very similar.
But the execution
Yeah, the
couldn't be
execution-
more different.
Exactly, and they're both very good.
I mean, Bendis's Powers is a more traditional noirish detective story in the way
Exactly.
it plays out.
I-
Whereas Top 10 is that very dense style of
Oh
more
yeah, no,
storytelling.
I wasn't saying to take away from.
Oh, no,
Henry.
no,
They're
I
just
didn't
interesting that this like I guess zeitgeist all
I-
hit at the same time.
Jungian
I have
shared
the
consciousness.
I have the first trade of Top 10, but I have not read it. Discuss.
Almost every, almost
We're
every,
going to spoil it for him.
almost everything in Top 10, Bendis, and I'm glad you brought this up because it gives us a juxtaposition to use. And Brian Bendis's it's absolutely like Cyrus was saying, more of a gritty film noir, almost procedural, like Law and Order type of thing. Whereas Top 10 is almost like a slice of life, because it's involved. It's cops just doing their job. They're not,
Like the Wonder Years?
Well, it's presupposing
Yeah,
you
it's
live
like
in a
Leon
world.
like the
had
Wonder
had the
Year.
right of it. It
It's
was
like the Wonder
Hill
Years
Street Blues.
if Fred Savage could fire optic beams from his eye.
Hey, you know what? He can.
Well, to me, when Alan Moore started doing those, what
he
was it?
just had a
ABC,
mold.
like America's Best
Yeah,
Comics
America's Best Comics.
for Wildstorm.
That's his company.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore? Okay.
yeah. Well, and he got pissed off with DC.
Well,
he had to sell
DC
it
bought
off.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alan Moore is the Black black man of comic books. Everybody's always taking shit from him, taking his ideas.
Well, that is true. But
Alan Moore is the woman that is the black man of the world. Is that what John Lennon's saying about?
No, he's the woman is nigger of the world.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Actually,
Leon informed me. So
Great song.
okay.
Actually, with ABC, what happened was that was hired by
Jim Lee
to create this universe of superheroes. Okay, and they were never intended for
Jim Lee's.
and then they stole it from him
for Jim Lee's company, which
Right.
was Wildstorm,
Right.
which was an independent comic at this point, and they were working under the onus of Image.
Right, but
And then-
Jim Lee is an artist who knows nothing about business, so he had to sell it to DC.
Right. Which
Yeah.
but Alan Moore was never meant to own these characters. That was never the intent when he did it. If you look at the copyright, it's owned by Wildstorm.
And to be
Always
fair,
has been.
they were marketed really badly. Even when I was collecting superhero comics, I didn't know what these were.
Sure.
They weren't in my face at all. And they're Alan Moore books, and damn good ones. They should have been
You know what? As good as they
splayed
are,
across
I
comic book
wasn't
stores.
blown away. Like I like Tom Strong a lot.
Yeah.
And Promethea, I was into for the first 9 issues,
Which I haven't read at
I
all.
kind of fell out of it.
Actually, I always hear that that's the one that gets better as it goes
Well,
along.
now see, so to me, it was
Let's
really
see, yeah, I
great for
disagree
9
also.
issues, and then I was just kind of tired of it.
He
But top 10 was the one that stood out to me. It's like, wow, this is the gold standard.
Promethea gets a little bogged down, and like he really brings out a lot of his affection for mysticism, especially
Right.
Kabbalah and stuff like that, and occasionally, yeah, it will get Grant Morrison-y, if you will.
So what other stuff?
That's perfect, Bo, because you're absolutely right.
What other stuff from Alan Moore should people really seek out and try to find?
I disagree completely with Leon as far as I love Tom Strong. Tom Strong is basically
he liked Tom
See,
Strong.
well,
okay.
if anyone wants to
All
say
right.
something about like not liking Tom Strong, I think that'd be me. And
All right.
I followed it up after reading Watchmen, and I
Well,
read it, and then I was like, wait, this is the same Alan
Actually,
Moore, and I
wah,
didn't
wah.
really get it or like it so much,
Well-
and so I'm wondering what do you like?
Yeah, that's like watching Citizen Kane and then turning around and watching Transformers the movie. So because Orson Welles did a voice.
Okay, so
I like Tom Strong. A lot of the reasons that I like Tom Strong for the same reasons that I like Planetary, which is it's got its roots in Pulp Fiction, and then it brings it into that superhero verse, because Tom Strong is basically like he's a Doc Savage analog, and he takes him and he keeps putting them in like different superhero-esque situations.
Well, I
like
mean,
whether
and Tom-
it's the villains that he's fighting or the super teams that he's interacting with, and basically it's like, what if Doc Savage met the Fantastic Four? And you can get that out of Tom Strong.
And of course, Doc Savage superhero comics come out of Doc Savage.
Yeah, absolutely. Doc
So-
Savage, The Shadow, all the old pulp heroes.
Well, Grantley, one thing you have to understand is like after Alan Moore made Watchmen, and things like The Dark Knight and V for Vendetta, that's when they changed comics and superheroes got gritty in a way that was like so like the Watchmen movie where they were over the top. It's like they got it, but they missed the point. And Alan Moore, the ABC comics, the America's Best Comics, the Tom Strong's, was a reaction to that, where he was like, wow, I did something that I thought was kind of cool, but I've created a monster. And I want to get away from that kind of comic and do the kind of comics I grew up with that were fun. But it's like, I recently heard an interview with the guy who directed the Wonder Woman movie, and he also directs the Batman Brave and the Bold. And he
Talking about the animated movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But he
Joss Whedon?
No. He's a director on the new Batman Brave and the Bold, and where he described it as when he grew up watching the old Adam West Batman series, he didn't realize it was camp.
Yeah.
But to him, the Brave and the Bold cartoon is how he saw that Batman cartoon, where you're like, sure, Batman was kind of like, as he is, barrel-chested and square-jawed, but he wasn't silly. He just had a lot of cool stuff.
The Brave and the Bold is like, it's a tribute to the old like Bill Finger era Batman, where he was this lantern-jawed kind of poorly illustrated guy, but the illustrations were great in and of themselves.
What are you saying about Dick Sprang?
The way you said that. Well, Grantley, I pictured
what are
you
you
like
implying
Peter
about
Falk
my dick?
sitting on the side of his bed going,
It didn't
the
spring at
Princess
all."
Buttercup and Wesley.
Well, if I was going to do Peter Falk, I would have almost left and been like, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing.
But yeah, it's true. I mean,
you
Tom Strong's the guy, like, he beats up the villains, and then, like, he'll look at the young man on the sidewalk who's looking at him agape and
Say,
go,
you're a nice piece of ass.
I think it's just a problem that I followed up The
then
Watchmen with it.
He
with
will
a certain
take his lantern
expectation.
jaw and beat the living shit out of Jason. Yeah. No, following...
Oh, the poor guy finally got to say something tonight. Every time he said anything all night, you're like, hey, no, but Jason, let me finish.
Fine, Jason. If you want to hog the podcast, go ahead.
Well,
That's Picumbo.
hey, when we start talking about Star Wars again, he can chime in on
Aw, that's not fair.
He also has G.I. Joe.
Well, no,
He's got a few
I
other
just said,
ones.
hey, I could have lent you any fucking Alan Moore you wanted, but no, you had to go do your real job and make money. So I'm just asking, where are your
And
priorities?
spend time with women and
Yes.
grown-ups.
Talk to women and go see real movies and
Okay.
Just got nothing.
You were doing good until you got to the whole go see real movies thing. I think
There
you've
you
seen
lost
my
us.
DVD shelf, Bo.
Yeah,
like-
I'm sorry.
It's like, how many times are you going to watch Logan's Run this month, Jason?
Yeah, when you're sitting there silently mouthing along with the chainsaw sounds from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Look what your brother did to the door,
Because
Junior.
you know them like I do the drum rolls on Led Zeppelin 2.
I'm
You know,
sorry.
come on.
What I meant to say was you had to go work your real job and have sophisticated dinners and social exchanges, and then go watch somebody kill a fucking cheerleader with a meat hook. Anyway,
Which I would think would be right up your alley, really.
When you put it that way, my
No.
life is pretty good.
hey, no cheerleaders. I wait until the cheerleader has sex with her uncle and becomes a stripper, and that's when I.
It's no fun till she's already given up on life.
Exactly.
Okay,
Come
I see.
on.
I like feeling the purity
I-
bleed
Cyrus.
out between my teeth.
Cyrus,
Yes?
I'm not a monster.
No, that's true.
So when did this become about Frank Miller?
On some level, it's always been about Frank Miller, I'm afraid.
But no, Tom.
Bo is that yellow bastard.
It definitely is a duality because in Watchmen you get these comic book heroes in a very realistic setting, and how they would deal with that. And reading Tom Strong is completely fantastic.
Well, and that just says to the strength of Alan Moore, the writer,
Yeah.
and how great of a writer he is.
Yeah, that he can switch back and forth.
They can do these things. And I was going to say, actually,
and he invented fire.
you know,
He invented phlogiston,
And
the
floss.
elemental form of fire.
He invented
But
floss.
He brought it to us mortals.
He invented floss, but he never.
And
He never used it.
and he banged Raquel Welch in that movie.
the Alan Moore that I would recommend that's more obscure is Supreme.
See, I still have not read Supreme.
Supreme is probably one of the best superhero, I guess, parodies, satire. What do you call that?
That's because it came out under Awesome Entertainment, which was ruled under Rob Liefeld, who is the worst fucking comic book artist and writer in the face of the planet.
Okay,
so
yeah, Rick, maybe you know the answer, because why in the world would Alan Moore decide to write the comic that was created by the worst comic book
not only
artist of all
that,
time?
one of their main writers was Jeff Loeb.
Can I guess? The check cleared.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna
that's
say.
part of it. But apparently the story goes that he went to Alan Moore and he said, "Hey, I want you to write comics for me." And Alan Moore goes, "Okay, I want to do this. I want Supreme. I want this character. I've always wanted to write Superman. Superman the way I wanted to do it."
Supreme is basically a Superman analog.
And he goes, and he took it over on issue 50, and he told Liefeld that nothing that happened before issue 50 counts. I'm rebooting the entire thing, and he restarts the entire series.
Superman's a weak point for Alan Moore.
Well-
not like weak point is writing, but I mean weak point like because he loves Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know the story about how he ended up doing the was whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow story.
Yeah.
Where he threatened.
No, what? Tell us.
Yeah,
Back
tell
up.
us,
I don't
please.
know.
That's what your job is here, historian.
Jeez, this pressure.
Get on it. Too long. All right, next. Sorry, go ahead.
Moore was in New York, and
Yeah, it's not easy, is it, bitches?
Wait, let's get Ruby Rocket in here to talk some shit to you before you can even finish your sentence.
Hey, I got all night, guys. You finished?
Our listeners don't have all night.
From now on, no one's allowed to interrupt Rick unless you use a Scottish accent. Okay.
Oi! Get to the point already!
Julius Schwartz, the famous editor, and all of you should look it up on Wikipedia. He's like the father of the Silver Age.
You may want to look up my article on my blog about Julius Schwartz, which can be found on my homepage.
Shameless plug.
No, it's okay.
Shameless plug.
Hey, Julius Schwartz was a genius.
Now you're gonna have to kill yourself.
No, I am
So
not.
Schwartz went out to dinner with Alan Moore, who was in town. He had just started writing. He was editing him on Swamp Thing, actually, or knew him from Swamp Thing. And he was telling about how he was trying to get Siegel to write the last Superman story. They were going to kill Superman off before Crisis. End the series and all this kind of stuff. And Alan Moore, the legend goes, went across the table and grabbed Schwartz and said, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to kill you. If you don't give me the story.
And looking like he did.
Yeah.
You can find it's called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow,
and it's amazing.
And
it was
absolutely.
It was almost
amazing.
called Whatever Happened to Julius Schwartz.
Right. And Julius Schwartz talks about it in his autobiography, which is a good book called Man of Two Worlds. And it is a very good autobiography.
And basically, Julius Schwartz talking about a comic book artist in his autobiography is like, because this is a guy who worked with everybody. If you don't know who Julius Schwartz is, well, he basically started the Silver Age. He's a guy who was behind revamping The Flash, revamping Green Lantern, bringing back Hawkman. I mean,
the Justice League.
The Justice League. This is the guy.
So maybe, possibly a future plug for a LEOG.
Yeah.
My friend Joe, whom I've known for a couple of years now, and Cyrus knows as well.
I do.
Actually interviewed Julius Schwartz when Joe was in high school.
So you're the guy behind the guy.
I'm the guy behind the no. Yeah, no. He walked into the DC offices and said, "Hey, is Julius here? We want to interview him."
He didn't call me.
No. Actually, I really am not trying to plug the thing that I wrote, but the thing that I wrote does link to an article.
Please do.
It links to an article that somebody else wrote, not me. That is basically like this little kid who went to the DC offices at one point and like demanded to see the guy who wrote Green Lantern, and he got diverted into Julius Schwartz's office, and the guy hung out with him for the entire day, and like for the rest of like Julius Schwartz's career, he continually sent this guy like care packages from DC with issues and like swag.
Schwartz
and
was a nice
this
guy.
Stuff. Yeah, he was.
Please don't come back and loiter around me.
Yeah,
And actually, let me.
he was an immensely nice guy, and
And
the idea that somebody came up there and was like, "Can I interview Julius Schwartz?" and he was like, "Yeah, sure."
That actually
And that
happened.
kid
Absolutely.
was Paul Harvey.
That-
That's the rest of the story.
That actually happened to me. I went up when Transmet was being written. I asked to meet the guy who wrote it, and I met Warren Ellis, and he scalped me and then sodomized me with a dry erase marker.
I was going to say, every time you go on the internet and you don't click on Bo's blog of this story, a Warren Ellis comic gets canceled.
So click on it and get your weapons grade crystal meth.
I've got one more story
Now take a drink.
for Cyrus about Julius Schwartz, actually.
All right.
Because this is one that you'll understand. Julius Schwartz was famous as an agent, actually, before. He was an agent for people like Ray Bradbury, H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, okay.
Alfred Bester.
Yeah, he was one of the first like members of what we now term science fiction fandom.
Right.
I mean,
He did the first fanzine.
Yeah, he and a couple other guys were the first guys that did like the
damn.
original fanzines in the 30s.
He's a really amazing guy. But he got into DC because Alfred Bester was writing Green Lantern at the time. He was writing.
I did not
Golden
know
Age.
that.
He was
I didn't
writing
know
the
that
Golden-
either.
He was writing the Golden Age Green Lantern.
Wikipedia
Oh.
didn't say that.
And Bester, and they were looking for an editor at DC, and he called up Schwartz and says, "Hey, man, would you like to be an editor at DC?" And Schwartz was getting a little tired of being an agent, so that's how he got into DC.
And
Alfred Bester got into
and that's why you get a Green Lantern who is basically one of the Lensmen, and the Lensman was a 30s science fiction space opera.
It was the
series.
first. It was really space.
That was
first space opera.
Actually, one of my science fiction author heroes, Larry Niven, wrote a Green Lantern
Right.
bit, and that's
Yes, he
one I like
With
went
John Byrne.
Hunted that, I
Larry-
hunted that down.
Larry Niven's a whore, man. He wrote for Land of the Lost. He wrote for the Star Trek animated
No,
series.
he's a professional.
Yeah, but
I
his
know,
stuff was
no.
all good.
No,
for
no,
those
no.
things.
I'm not saying that in a bad way because he just like
I love Niven.
all of this like quality writing for these, but that's what's great about it because there's so many people that would have their snoot up in the air about doing this stuff, and he was just like, yeah, I'll do a kid series, no fucking problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Niven holds the singular distinction of actually introducing a whole new alien race into Star Trek
Yeah.
canon. He
The
put his Kazinti
Yeah,
into
the
into Star
Kazinti
Trek
are are a big part of Alan Moore's. What's the name of his universe? The known universe.
Oh, Niven. You mean Niven's known universe?
Yeah, Niven's known universe
space. It's known space.
Yeah,
his Ringworm series is great. Okay, anyway,
Don't make me hurt you.
You've got ringworm. Your mom's got ringworm.
I really wish Julia Schwartz had brought in Lovecraft to write the first Justice League issue.
Instead of this big starfish,
Well, yeah.
big calamari.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually,
And because
they don't look like Star.
JLA would have they would have been like, shut the fuck up.
damn, poor Jason. Have pity on him.
JLA, if he had brought in Lovecraft to bring in Starro, the issue would have ended at number 1. It would have been like, Jesus Christ, everyone went insane.
Oh my God! It's the Starro of David. We're all gonna die.
Yeah, Lovecraft comes in and everyone's Zoidberg.
But seriously,
What? You've got a little Kugel, maybe? Nice. Something
You guys
I
know
can
that
eat?
you know that Lovecraft was an anti-Semite.
Oh, hell yeah.
Big way.
What?
And thus the humor between Starro and
Okay,
David comes.
gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure you're aware of it.
I didn't just
I'm sorry,
pull that
did that-
out of my ass as opposed to all the other comments I've
Did
made.
that leave
tonight.
tire tracks on your
which
forehead?
which is worse? Is it worse that that Lovecraft was an anti-Semite, or that Orson Scott Card was
Or is
homophobe?
Well, one of them is still alive.
I'd say one of them is still a homophobe now.
By the way, the answer is they are both tantamount morally.
Okay.
I mean, there was
Actually-
a lot of anti-Semites in the
actually-
time of H.P.
actually,
Lovecraft.
and I even have a Watchmen tie-in on Orson Scott Card. He was working on the screenplay. They were finally going to do an adaptation.
yeah, see, but the
movie.
big blue dick wouldn't be there if he wrote this.
No, he was doing not of Watchmen, but when talking about the translation of one work into the cinematic medium,
Ender's
They
Game.
were working
Yeah,
Ender's
Ender's
Game,
Game, yeah.
and they kept trying and finally Card's like, this is not going to work, and they're like, yeah, you're right. So Ender's Game won't be a movie.
If there was ever a book that seems like you could translate almost exactly from the book into a movie, it would be Ender's Game to me. It seems like
seem like
seems
you
like
Yeah,
it's
but
a total
well,
gimmick.
The problem is viewpoint. I mean, because you have to take this kid who's like 5 at the beginning and like 8 at the end, and by age 8, the kid's committing genocide. Your hero is basically Hitler.
But you can tell that dark story nowadays.
They
in
shifted
film,
it
I
into
think.
the comic medium just
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. The comic book
But
is not bad.
it's a matter of finding
Yeah.
a kid actor who can actually handle it.
Nice segue to comics.
Exactly. I mean, because if you try to get a
right,
kid,
big up.
the last kid actor who turned into Hitler was gently referred to as Mannequin Skywalker in the Phantom Menace.
We do not speak his name.
I don't think the
Yeah,
problem with
Jake
those.
Lloyd's not doing anything. Let's get him.
I don't think the problem with those movies is that the kid ends up becoming Darth Vader.
Wait,
I think
don't
the problem is they're
all-
shitty movies.
Don't
Well,
all,
okay.
don't all child
Mannequin
actors become,
Skywalker.
Don't all child actors become Hitler?
No.
What? I thought it went.
Haley Joel Osment is still
you-
brilliant.
You hold up at dry cleaners. You get film on tape. You make a comeback.
The kid
you have
from
a drug
30 Rock's
overdose,
doing pretty good.
And then you become the dictator of a
Christian
small
Bale.
East-
Well, don't
Eastern
forget, in
European
between,
nation.
you got to
Will
be
Wheaton
cracking a reality
Yes.
show.
Empire of the Sun.
Ben Affleck was in Voyage of the Mimi. I had to watch when I was in elementary school.
Shut up.
I was gonna say right
No,
now.
no, okay, I have a good one.
Was that like a
Elijah
religious
Wood.
film?
Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
He is transcended and he hasn't
No,
fallen in. And
he's
not to
still a
mention-
child.
not to
He's
mention-
still a little
He
hobbit
just
man.
looks it.
He's older than
He's
Grant.
a man-child.
Hey,
Although
he-
they look like brothers.
do.
I saw Elijah Wood hanging out with Harry Knowles a couple months ago.
Oh,
And
bad
he went-
news.
God, it's
and-
like Abbott and Costello.
And he was having a great time.
Abbott and
Whoa,
Costello.
whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just saying. I saw Elijah Wood hanging out with Harry Knowles a couple months ago, having a good time. And if that doesn't prove he's fucking Hitler, I don't know what does.
Hey, I saw a werewolf at Lee Ho Fooks.
Werewolf! Werewolf!
All right,
Next
all right.
question.
We're moving on. And this one's got, from me, an obvious answer. And I know I hate to go hit back on a LEOG cliche, but Wyatt asks, do you think there's a comic writer who has the potential to be the next Alan Moore? And, not exactly. That's a stupid question
I don't
on
think
some
there
level. level.
First
It's a
you gotta
stupid
kill
question on
Alan
some
Moore.
level. But, the closest I can think of it is Warren Ellis. He's kind of crazy. He's very disheveled looking.
Kinda
He writes
crazy?
stuff that's on the, far edge of comics right now, what's going
Yeah,
on.
Warren Ellis is bug nuts crazy.
I think the answer is that you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
They come out of nowhere. If somebody will write something and we won't know, I mean,
It might be Bo.
The reason that Alan Moore isn't because that he is such a great writer, although he is, but because he came around at a particular time and changed a paradigm that had never been changed before. And finding somebody who's going to do that is a tall.
well,
fucking
and
order.
you can't predict who's going to do that.
Yeah.
I kind of think that Neil Gaiman actually followed him up quite nicely as
Right.
another person who changed the media.
But the
I
thing
feel
is,
like he did for a while.
Gaiman's actually
And
rational.
I don't feel like he's done.
Well,
anything
that's because he
in a
got out of
while.
the comics industry.
Well,
He's
no,
not
well,
really part of
and
it
the other thing
anymore.
is
pops back in.
I mean, he does, but he's
the
not
Batman
really
thing.
part of it. He is trolling the comic book industry at this
He's
point from time
above
to
it.
time. He's
Here's
a
the
novelist
thing.
now.
To talk about to kind of piggyback on what Rick was saying is that the next Alan Moore will really appear writing Darkhold, or something random
So
like that.
basically, there's like a prophecy of a next Alan Moore. Yet we don't know who he is.
Yeah.
It'll be somebody that we have to take to.
Yeah. No,
Perhaps
it'll
the Oracle.
it'll be like the end of the world in the Bible. It's like, oh, it's going to happen, but you don't know when it's going to be.
There
I
is
think
the prophecy
that
that
is-
another Alan Moore.
Well, I
will
mean,
I think that
rise
is
to
in the
save
book
us.
of Oa. So
Yeah.
He will
Yeah.
have a
Nah.
big dick.
Okay, this is just like any sports guy saying who's going to be the next Michael
how do
Jordan.
you bring this back to
Because
sports?
it's the same
I
fucking
know.
thing,
God
man.
damn it! You could have
Who's
brought
gonna be the next Michael
Dude, it's
Jordan?
You could've
LeBron
said-
James.
No,
Which is
you're
correct,
wait.
yes.
I'm sick of this. You're a fucking musician first and foremost. You could have said who's going to be the next Miles Davis.
That would have
who's
been
gonna be the
okay.
next John
Next
Lennon.
Miles-
But you brought it to sports. Fuck you.
He did it
Who's
specifically
gonna
to
be the next
anger
Miles
you.
Davis, or who's going to be the next
Which is awesome.
Beatles or Hendrix?
Everything can be a
Nobody.
sports or musical allegory,
Yeah,
but it
exactly.
doesn't need to be.
There you go. My point exactly.
Nice, Grant.
Not on Leon.
As long as we are using the music allegory, to an extent, asking who the next Alan Moore is going to be is asking who's the next Lennon McCartney going to be, or who the next Beatles
Well, there's
are.
not going to be another one.
Because he completely changed the paradigm, just like the Beatles changed the paradigm of music.
Is someone else going to change the paradigm of comics? Certainly.
Absolutely.
But are they going to do it in a way in which it would make sense to compare them to Alan Moore?
No, well,
Probably not.
Okay, arguably the person before Moore who changed paradigm was Jack Kirby,
Yeah, right, absolutely.
and they're nothing alike.
No,
Right.
no. In no way did they change the paradigm of comics similarly. It was
Right,
very,
but
very
they
different
both
the things
did.
they did.
But they
Right.
both did.
True.
Yeah, and we were talking. We had during the Daredevil episode, we had a question. We were saying someone was saying of the big three: Alan Moore, Frank Miller, and Neil Gaiman. Of like people nowadays think of the guys from the '80s who changed everything. Who do you think the next big three are going to be? And we came down to saying,
See, I think
honestly, the
Bendis has
only
done a
one,
big thing.
who really qualifies to me is Garth Ennis as far as someone who really changed the direction.
See, and
that
I don't think
comic
Neil
was
Gaiman's
going.
changed that much. Neil Gaiman goes on the coattails of Alan Moore.
Yes,
He really does.
If it was no Alan Moore, there would be no Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Alan Moore
But-
parted the water.
I hate saying that, but it's true.
Alan Moore is the father of Vertigo.
But he paved the way for other genius.
Right.
And
he opened the door, and then
I-
Neil Gaiman came through.
But
and it was-
wasn't there people who
it
paved
was-
the way
it
for
was-
Alan Moore too?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's not fair to
do
say.
I do think that Gaiman's use of mythology definitely outweighs Alan Moore and the way that he utilized it. I mean, to an extent, Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman are always going to be the Beatles and the Rolling Stones of the spirit.
Well, Neil Gaiman is also a protege of Alan Moore.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
He's the Salieri of.
And on
And
top
from
of
what
it,
I hear, one of the nicest
no,
guys
no.
in working in comics.
Amici cari.
Alan Moore is Haydn and Neil Gaiman is Mozart.
well, and here's the other thing too. Alan Moore, we talked about earlier how Alan Moore has been able to do different types of comics, radically different. Neil Gaiman has not.
Yeah.
He's a one-trick pony for the most part.
If you're reading the Eternals and you're impressed,
Really?
then
Okay.
go read American
I
Gods.
would not
and you
No.
won't-
I mean, to say a one-trick pony is such an insulting term that's just
I don't.
not
I do.
fair.
I
Is
think Gaiman,
J.R. Tolkien a one-trick pony?
Yes,
Should we-
I think he
No,
is.
but should we insult him and think lesser of him because he only likes doing this one type
Well,
of thing?
Obviously, you've
Absolutely
never
not.
read J.R.R. Tolkien's Cyberpunk.
Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing with Gaiman. Okay, Gaiman has written one really good comic series. Okay, he's written some other good ones, but really good. Sandman's it. All right,
Okay.
that is his
Yeah.
pinnacle. There's nothing that's even come close in his series. Okay, he's written some good stuff here and there. All right, in books, he's never written any books that are even close to Sandman in quality.
No, I think totally
Well, how
different.
much time do you devote to
Good
that in
Omens
his
is
career
really,
versus
really
Alan
different.
Moore?
Doesn't matter.
I do think if you took the stuff with Good Omens and Nancy Boys, and if that had been a comic book series, but yeah, I think you're making a very valid argument.
So he didn't change anything in comics. He went
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that too.
Do you think Alan Moore could carry a line as long as Gaiman carried
If
Sandman?
he had a chance.
Alan Moore opened some
disagree.
doors.
I think you would get distracted.
Alan Moore loosened the jelly jar, and Neil Gaiman's the one who opened up and started serving sandwiches. Okay, to everyone.
Yeah,
you know?
okay, that's good. Yeah.
Sure, but he was certainly, but you can't. But he doesn't have the same effect. To put him in the same category with Moore or Kirby. That's not really you're diminishing what Moore and Kirby did.
I don't think
they
so.
changed everything.
I would actually put Gaiman in the same league as Moore.
I would too, and I think just because having said that you happen to be in the right place in the right time to change everything doesn't necessarily say you're not just as good an author as somebody else.
That's not what I'm saying at all. It's going to do being in the right
Moore
place at the
and
right time.
Kirby have more breadth than Gaiman does.
Well, they tried different things. Gaiman.
Well,
Gaiman.
my argument is I don't think Gaiman can in comics. And I don't think, because Gaiman, I think, got popular way too quickly, especially in his books, he got popular way too quickly. And what happens is a good example, another great example is that, like Harn Ellison, who his writing has not changed since he's got popular.
That's a very good example.
And you get stuck in this area. Ray Bradbury is another good example who got popular very early, and his style didn't change.
Hey, if you're really good at something, there's nothing wrong with that, is what I'm saying.
So you're saying it's the pulp way.
Yeah, but it's the same way. Like,
didn't we just complain earlier about how
Aerosmith?
Well, I think
himself?
I think that is the fundamental difference with Moore and with Kirby, is that they were. I mean, it's just like, bagging on like, oh, Led Zeppelin never changed their style. Well, who the fuck cares? Because they recorded 5 of the best rock and roll albums.
Yeah.
But see, I don't.
Hold on.
It's Icarus. Come on.
Let me finish my statement. It's Icarus. Come on. Hey, let me finish my statement. Anybody out there who says like Led Zeppelin or even like Roger Waters era Pink Floyd aren't good bands is out of their fucking mind.
You're missing.
But no, I'm not.
Okay.
Let Bo talk. He hasn't said anything all night.
Are they comparable with the Beatles to the way that they changed? Not only the way that they changed music, but the way that they changed forms and did things up differently with like over the course of the albums that they made. Yeah, or maybe even like Bob Dylan, between his folk albums and his electric albums, and beyond even into the stuff that he's doing now, they're constantly changing. I think that having an artist of high caliber that not only offers something incredibly different and new and changes the paradigm, but continues to go and change paradigms throughout his career, is almost impossible to ask for. And in Kirby and Moore, we got these incredible gifts. That being said, you can't take anything away from Gaiman insofar as he's affected the form. And I wouldn't say he's a one-trick pony. I would say that, he has a very cool bag of tricks that he uses in a myriad of different ways. Whereas Moore is a little bit more likely to just throw out his bag entirely and go from doing something like The Watchmen to, say, Tom Strong.
That being said, Moore, if you sit and read a bunch of Moore stuff in a row, you'll recognize a lot of similar tricks he uses
Absolutely
repeatedly.
He's got his favorite.
Just because you're changing genres doesn't mean that you're not doing a similar thing.
It's not.
And just like the Beatles. I mean, no matter what Beatles you're listening to, I don't care if it's their most psychedelic or straight out of the bat, like playing in Hamburg. Melody.
There's your cue, Greg.
The melody is the thing.
Paul McCartney will probably sound
But
the
like
same.
my example though, Gaiman writes Sandman, which is granted a very good comic, and he does Eternals, Marvel 1602, and they're really not that much different than Sandman.
I disagree at all.
Yeah,
The structure. But we're going to move on from this one. We spent 20 minutes on this goddamn
that's too
subject
hard.
matter, which wasn't even a question.
We have all arrived at the conclusion that Rick is wrong. Moving on.
We can talk to anyone.
You should have seen the picture I sent him after seeing The Watchmen. But anyway,
Hey, I posted it.
I know you did. And kudos to you, my friend. You know, we got to answer this question from Ghost Rider because I promised her as part of the deal with the T-shirts I would answer any question she wanted.
Okay, fair enough.
Question is, send me a picture of Leon's penis.
Oh,
No,
hold him down, boys.
No. She said,
got
my iPhone.
I'm kidding. She already has like a whole bunch of them you sent her.
Yeah, we all have those pictures.
So she says she has 2 short questions. One which is for you specifically.
Short, and they're both about Leon's penis.
Says, how do publishers
short.
how do publishers match up a writer with an artist? How do they choose how to do it? Do they keep samples of artwork on hand to look at, or they just don't know what artist is best at what style of work?
It's great she would ask that when we have an editor in the room.
Who would that be?
It would be
Grant?
Yes, actually, I moonlighted as an editor for a while.
Right on.
When you're not working at McDonald's?
the answer to the question is, Rick, I'm completely wrong about Neil Gaiman Claw.
Wow. That's all right. What's the question again? No.
Definitely an editor. No content.
My chaos magic works again.
No. I wish there was an easy answer. There isn't. Sometimes writers will come with an artist attached that they'll say, "Hey, I want to work with this guy."
Yeah.
Or sometimes you'll have an artist who will bring a writer with them. Or when I was an editor, I'd have a group of artists that I looked at and knew their work, and I'd get a writer and I'd say, this artist I think will match well with this. There isn't an easy answer. There isn't like a formula, XY equals Z 5G, and then we get super speed or something.
There's no simple answer to situational.
Right, it's very situational.
And sometimes popularity has got to play into it. I mean,
Well, yeah, sure.
remember,
Nepotism is big.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
not just
I
popularity,
remember
nepotism.
Availability, not
Frank
more
Miller
than
and Bill Sienkiewicz doing like Elektra. I remember that was both when they were like
Oh,
the
sure.
height of their
But
fame.
actually, if you want to bring it back to Alan
together.
Moore, though, Alan Moore is famous for working with artists that are not always that popular.
Yeah.
True.
That he could work with artists that would sell more books.
But what does he need to?
But that's, again, he doesn't have to.
Yeah, he writes with artists he works with artists that are competent and are expressive of the style that evoke the style he's going for.
Exactly.
Like what's his name? It does League of
Kevin O'Neill.
Yeah, it was
Kevin O'Neill.
perfect choice.
And by the way,
illustrate.
back to top 10. Is it James Ha?
Gene Ha.
Gene Ha and Danger Cannon.
Oh
right?
man, Gene Ha his work's so good.
Okay, well, the second question from Ghost Rider is, with the success of the Smallville series, which I'm like, come on, Ghost Rider, you listen.
yeah,
What
come
are we
on,
doing?
did you listen to
But
the show?
she says, do you foresee Batman returning to the small screen with a show based on the movie version of Batman? Which actually is a good question.
Absolutely not. Because I don't know if I told this story before, but Tim McCandless, who wrote the Iron Giant, had written up a treatment and proposed, tried to pitch a series, a Smallville-like series for Batman. And I was at a birthday party when he was there. He told me about it, and I was drunk, being an asshole, but I laughed and told him, like, dude, that'll never go on TV. You give it up. And I was like, wait, you telling me this is whole series about Bruce Wayne, all about his training, but never putting on the bat suit? I'm sorry, it's never gonna happen.
And he's an orphan,
right.
and
Yeah, and you know what? And I told him I would love to see it happen. I would love to see it, but they're never going to do it.
Really?
And it's one of those times when I'm sad I was right.
Because I would hate to see a Batman analog of Smallville, but that wasn't her question. Her question was,
Is there going to
be a Batman
show?
Absolutely. There's going to be a Batman TV series and a Spider-Man TV series.
live action, I think.
Yes,
is what she's
they're
saying,
absolutely. All that we are waiting on right now is for the CGI costs to go down, and they will. They've gone
They
down.
are rapidly going
George
down.
Lucas
incrementally,
like every old BBC episode.
year
of
after
Doctor Who.
year after year after year
The
after
70s
year,
versions.
they go down, and
Yeah.
some wise apple will finally figure out, and I mentioned that on LEOG after LEOG after LEOG, that the only real fecund way to do a comic book series is in an episodic TV series.
And that's dictionary.com, kids,
Yeah.
not
Is that
Wikipedia
feckin'?
for feckin'.
As soon as they figure that out, they're and they start getting the viewers and the advertising money. Boom.
When we see George Lucas's new live-action Star Wars television series, which comes out, next year, I think is what they're saying now? They're firmly coming out with casting and all
kill
that
everyone
stuff.
else.
Although,
they're calling
to be fair, I hear that the Clone Wars is actually getting pretty good. Now that he's not
I
involved
keep
in it.
hearing that
I've
from
heard
people
that
who
too.
loved the movie. And
right.
the movie
Actually,
was
I've heard from
garbage.
people that hated the movie, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting that from people that have hated the movie.
There's a guy I'm going to bring on for our video game show who originally loved the movie, and he has since told me how he's gone back and watched the movie and hated it, but does love the TV series and told me I should watch it. I was like, really?
Washburn originally loved the movie?
Not Washburn. Not Washburn.
I thought we weren't supposed to mention names.
I know a ton of people who work on video games.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So I have a question for Rick. Rick, Joe Lansdale. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan.
And you're good friends with him.
Yeah, he's...
Aren't you?
Best friends with him.
Well, not best friends.
Y'all pretty close, though.
You guys have friendship bracelets.
They've got matching braided bracelets.
Anyway.
And purity rings.
So, okay, so have you... I've read a lot of Joe Lansdale adaptations to comics and stuff that he's written originally for comics. What have you been involved in with that?
There's a book called Atomic Chili that I did at Mojo Press.
Yeah.
That I edited it. Yeah.
I love that book. That's one of my favorite books, by the way.
And I did a couple of the adaptations in there. I also did 2 adaptations for Avatar when they did the By Bizarre Hands.
Oh, yeah, that was really
issue
fucking
6.
good.
I did 2 adaptations in that issue, and I also did, Joe and I co-wrote a story in Gangland.
You know what, Rick?
Okay.
This would be a good time for you to plug whatever it is that you're doing now. We haven't stopped to plug yet.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
Jason has talked far too much.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, did I answer your question then?
Yeah, no, that's the By Bizarre Hands adaptation that came out, it was like a year ago, something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, that was really incredible. I mean, really pretty much anything that Joe Lansdale writes for comics has just been outstanding. He did some Batman stuff. He did as far as I'm concerned, seminal Jonah Hex adaptation.
You're
Have
right.
you all seen the plot
Absolutely.
for the new Jonah Hex movie?
It borrows heavily from that, does it not?
Yeah, it's almost. I emailed Joe. I was like, doesn't this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Is he getting paid for it?
And
He's not involved with it at all.
yeah,
It's
most
not his character, dude.
It's
Why would he get paid?
It's a.
If it's based on his story.
yeah, most recently he did
No,
Pigeons.
that's not how it works.
No.
In comic book land, it's like,
Most recently, they adapted Joe Lansdale's Pigeons from Hell.
That Robert Howard. Yeah.
Yeah. He did
the
Robert E.
adaptation.
Howard. Yeah, he did the adaptation. That's
He
right.
wrote a great comic book treatment of the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Where Tonto was like the smart one, was the brains of the operation.
Yeah, and also
And he's not involved with the Lone Ranger movie either.
my favorite Joe Lansdale comic adaptation was The Drive-In,
Oh yeah.
which, if you want to read something that is bleak and completely fucked, read The
It's
Drive-In.
funny because I'm not that big into the Joe Lansdale comic book adaptations, but I love his novels. As far as a writer, he's one of my top favorites.
I'm so bad. I really haven't read anything by him.
You know, there's a new
practically at
Hammond
all.
Leonard coming out in August.
Is there?
didn't
'Cause I
he-
thought he was done with those.
I will
Oh,
say
awesome.
straight up, I love his Jonah Hex stuff.
Didn't he
Absolutely awesome.
write the movie
Brilliant.
with Bruce Campbell?
It's the best Jonah
It's based on a novella of his. Bubba Hotep.
Bubba Hotep. Okay.
Based
All
on
right.
novella.
You wrote that?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
And Greg's back in the game.
Was
Yeah.
there sports in that movie?
Were they playing football or
Elvis.
baseball?
Yeah,
No,
there's
Lansdale
Elvis,
is
yeah.
hard-edged, hard-boiled fiction, horror fiction.
You
I
all should
mean,
get him on your show one time.
Would he come on? Could you talk to him about it?
You to the fucker thing. Yeah.
Now.
No. Great. Lance is going to talk about what a fucker I am. Get him on the show. Get me invited? The hell's wrong with you?
Oh man.
I propose that we put Rick into our extra room, and when I say extra, I mean the basement.
How's he going to go talk to
And-
Joe Lansdale?
Oh, we'll bring him his phone, but the food will be tantamount on who he gets.
What you
in
want?
here.
It talks on the phone or it gets
It
the hose
talks on the
again.
phone or it gets the hose.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
But he would be great on here. He would
yeah,
have a good time.
because we want to piss off somebody that's friends with Joe Lansdale, who
Actually-
is obviously disturbed.
Yeah, actually,
he's not at all.
We
That's
will
the thing
we
about
will
him
do
now.
the Lansdale issue with Sans Jason, who
Actually, he's not
may
disturbed
end
at
up
all.
humping his leg.
Yeah, he's like the most normal guy you'll ever meet.
But he is in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, he's a total badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's a total bad. Well, what's funny is that Joe Lansdale is like.
No, there is a comic book writer in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What kind of bizarre
He's-
world are we living in?
Like Leon, and of course, like Rick, I've only met him like twice, I think, and he has been the nicest. He is like the definition of Southern gentleman.
Yes, he
where
is.
he's like, "Hey man, how you doing? Yeah, thanks for coming."
Yeah,
He's
it's
the
easy
nicest
to be
guy.
it's easy to be a nice Southern gentleman when you can kill somebody
Yeah,
with touch.
Right after that, I said, "Well, you know, your adaptation of Batman," and I only got that far, and then he snapped my fucking femur.
By the way, I would like to say I would have been far more vicious to Colin's like appreciation, and I use quote marks if you can't hear them, of Watchmen if he hadn't told me that. Oh yeah, I'm working on my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
You know, see, but the thing is, I'll argue with Lansdale. Lansdale and I have argued about Watchmen. He loved it. So I'm not scared of arguing with him. He's nothing.
Yeah, you've got a cane. You've got something. You've got something to beat him up with.
And glasses.
Yeah, nobody
The
can hate
cane
you.
means nothing.
So,
I was going to say... Oh, sorry. go
in
ahead,
our
go ahead.
future fantasy episodes where we're able to have these guests on, are we allowed to actually call them out on stuff we think is like fucked up, or do we have to kiss ass?
Rick, you know we can call him out on anything as long as we're behind a wall.
Grant,
of unbreakable glass.
anytime we get a martial artist on,
You can call him
on the show.
You know who we should-
You are actually going to be in charge of asking the hard questions.
Rick,
I'm on
you-
it, guys. I
You
got
know
it.
who we should get for the show? And I put it all on your shoulders.
Go
Batman.
ahead, Grant.
I'll see what I can do.
If you don't get
Yeah.
him,
When
You know,
we have
can-
Grant Morrison on,
Can we just start with the question and work
Yeah.
our way up?
Yeah, when we have
'Cause
Grant-
at least that's a chick.
when we have Grant Morrison on, Grant can ask him all of the questions, and then he can cast some sort of curse on Grant.
well, we won't
Grant
understand
versus
his-
Grant.
Dude, when we
We
get
won't
Grant
understand
Morrison,
his answers
When we
anyway.
get Grant we're not going to get Grant Morrison on until we get a second coffee table, so we can use the one that we're currently using for drugs.
Yes.
Or for me to be body slammed on, apparently.
One more thing I'll mention before we get away from Lansdale, hopefully for a while. Since I'm on here, we should talk about his Batman animated series stuff, which he wrote 2 of the best episodes.
He did. He wrote 2 of the absolute best
absolutely.
episodes.
Oh, which ones?
He
Which
also
ones?
wrote one of the worst. I would just bring that up.
Okay.
As well.
Which ones?
Call it out.
He wrote a Bizarro episode with Superman, and with the Batman.
Oh, he wrote he wrote Read My Lips, the one with the ventriloquist.
Oh, right.
Which was amazing episode.
But he also wrote I Am the Night, the one where with Mad Hatter, where Batman has his whole life. Where
That's
he,
for Chance to
which
Dream.
is
It's for Chance to
arguably
Dream.
is it
Yeah.
for Chance to Dream?
that is
Okay.
arguably one of the best Batman the Animated Series.
No,
He
episodes.
also wrote the Jonah Hex episode.
Yes, right.
It's where Batman is like, trapped in a dream world, and everything's perfect, and he's Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne again. And
And ultimately,
but
his
it
id
culminates.
goes like, "Wait, if you're happy, this must be a dream.
Yeah.
Let's kill yourself."
and it culminates in that I am Batman, I am the Night, and you're just like, oh yes, you are.
Yeah.
Please don't beat.
Now, the one he wrote that was the worst was with a farmer with these mutated
Oh
animals.
that was Steve
Critters.
Gerber. That was Steve Gerber.
No, he wrote it with Gerber.
Oh, okay.
Gerber wrote the original plot, and Lance
but
wrote
the weirdo like woo aspect.
Yeah.
that was totally Gerber.
Lansdale's got some weird shit.
Lansdale ironed out the details, but as
Yeah.
far as all that you hated about that was Gerber. And
Yeah.
by the way, as someone who owns a complete collection of Howard the Duck, I love that fucking episode.
Lansdale's got some weird
love
shit,
Gerber.
but when it comes to Gerber versus Lansdale, Gerber's gonna come home with the gold in the Weird Olympics.
Well, guys, we're reaching the end of another episode of the League of Extremely Ordinary
Hey,
Gentlemen.
sorry we didn't answer all your questions.
I'm sorry,
I mean,
we
we
never
were
can.
many,
But that
Shout out
doesn't.
to Guitar
I guess we
Man.
did.
But that doesn't mean they won't show up in a future League Arena episode, which is not. I don't know when it's going to happen. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah,
But
when
there will be-
Bo and I can bend all our fellow leaguers over and go home with the gold.
I think I'll be skipping
And,
that
and
one.
by the way, I think we only got like 2 people like bitching about the arena forum, but fuck you guys. I mean, absolutely, really.
Fuck you guys. I went home with the first season of Tales from the Dark Side, so I don't give a shit what you think.
But within the league, on behalf of me, Jason and Greg, fuck you two. Seriously.
That was
You
totally
two
stacking the
ringers?
deck to put
Yeah,
you guys on the same
bullshit.
team.
Yeah, that will never be
yeah,
allowed
yeah.
again. In fact, the next time we do this, it'll be where it'll
Every
be
man
each
for
league
himself?
member
I
teamed
call
up
Leon.
with people who come in from the outside in a public show. So we'll have a chance for other people to win the prizes.
I call low clip.
No, you guys don't get prizes anymore. No, Rick cannot be your partner.
Shut up! You shut your filthy mouth, Cyrus.
In future Leogs, Bo's mic will be unplugged. Nobody tell him. Everybody just nod and acknowledge silently, and we'll edit it together later.
Oh, apparently other people have jobs and free time and girlfriends, and I am not allowed to read Wikipedia. Well, you all can suck my cock.
That was very Chris Farley right there.
I am down by the river.
Hey, can we walk out with some magic from
before
Greg?
I just want to thank you all for having me.
Yes.
Fun.
Oh, no.
Hey,
Thank
you
you
for
thank you
coming,
for
man.
coming.
You know what? Rick, we've been wanting to have you for a while.
And
This is a
Colin
perfect
Smiley.
excuse for it.
Yeah,
Colin,
Colin,
thank you.
Coming. Thanks to everybody else who
And
showed
yes.
up. Antonio and Darren, thank you so much. Thanks to
invitation
Jason
to
F. for sitting there and really wanting to have things to say, but never really having the opportunity to.
Sorry,
Didn't have the guts to
Sorry,
push Jason
Padawan.
out of the way.
Well, he smells kind of bad, so.
Oh, yeah.
You can say something now if you want. The microphone's yours.
Get it all off your chest. What'd you think about this Watchmen movie?
And that's the show.
Yeah, let's hear some Greg on the way out.
We'll have a 0.5 another week. After that, I don't even know. But you know what,
No,
folks?
coming up, we've decided we are going to do a video.
There
game
will
show.
be. I just don't know if it will be the next
Right.
full
I'm saying
one.
it's coming
Greg.
up, and a chick show.
And a chick show.
Greg, walk us out funky. That's all I'm asking.
I have one last thing to say before we're done. I think you know what it is, Jason.
Long live the league.
Long live the
Yes, well, they should live.
Did you say yes? Well, they should live.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You are so cut off.
Live long, they should.